alive again. We're slowly repairing from the ashes. It's cool. It's fine. I'm not panicking. You're panicking, actually. I'm not cursed. I'd never been cursed. Oh, hi!
There you are.
Yeah, no, for any newcomers here, hi, welcome to the one of many times when my magic mirror decides to just crack on me. I don't know what I did to give myself 7 years of bad luck, but I guess I've done it.
They just don't make them like they used to.
They really don't. They really do. I think it's the fact they don't put silver anymore. I really think that's it.
Yeah, it's, vampires, they had that little extra deal going on with it.
And you won't believe it because a lot of people say that they're undead and yeah they are, but I have a theory that they're basically based off Fae. Like the original vampire was a Fae, so that's where you get a lot of the real wacky rules in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it leads to a bunch of messes. It really does. And yeah, and just oh great, now I'm involved in it too,
That would explain why Edward Cullen's a blood-sucking, sparkling pixie.
Oh yeah, no, it's totally that reason. Why else do you think vampires can't enter a building? It's rude. That's the whole thing. Why else do you think someone would curse them never to see the sunlight? Because that's a beautiful thing, and if you really love the sunlight, well, I guess no sunlight for you. Oh, you like your looks? Fine, no vanity. You don't get to see your face ever again.
You gotta find someone who's a good artist.
You just gotta find someone who's a good artist. Oh, thank you, Neo, for the hydrate. Glug glug. But yes.
I'll join you in on that.
Yeah. So, yeah, just to recap for anyone who's, if this gets preserved, we're gonna be talking about some funny subclasses, and just going vibe check-in. This is gonna be very casual. We're literally just going to be vibing. But yeah. Let me see which one do. I don't know, do you have anyone you want to start with, or should I just initiate the vibe check?
I think you being the host, let's see what you got first.
Alright, cool. Now, I find it really funny. It's really funny that you asked me, hey Pan, how should I prepare for this? And I gave you very reasonable things on how you could prepare for this. And I'm like, man, that's really good advice. It's a shame I will never follow it, ever. And it's a curse I live with every day of my hecking life.
Oh, thank you, Neo. Saying that we're two of the favorite vibe streamers.
Yeah, we're vibe streamers, actually. I don't do anything else. I literally, you see me wiggle around right here? I'm just vibing. That's all I do.
I mean, there's certainly worse things.
It's true. I could say gamer words.
Very true. That being said, I know some fun people who are quote-unquote cringe tubers, but...
Wait, do I not have interwebs open? Please don't be... Okay, cool. Alright. Just in a bit of a delay. So, let me see. Why don't I actually go over, since I mentioned my Necromancer who I played for 2 years, why don't I just, gush about Necromancer? Because I really do feel that Necromancer, I've always liked the theme of, the undead. That's just a weird thing I found out, after playing a Necromancer for 2 years and also looking back at other character ideas or characters, get inspired after the fact. I don't know, I really just like the idea of messing around with the undead and, this themes of coming back from death and how that changes people in different ways.
Uh-huh.
Or how people want to, deal with death and everything. I don't know, it's just fascinating to me, and I never, realized how much I really wanted it till I really started digging into it. But yeah. So, Necromancer I feel is an interesting class for Wizard in particular, because something I learned is Wizard is not DPS, despite the fact how many people tell you about Fireball.
Right.
Because, I'll be real, as a wizard, again, for 2 years, only real DPS spells I used frequently Was Magic Missile when I wanted to burn first level slots? Fireball? Maybe Negative Energy Flood in late game. But, like, for the most part, I really learned, especially because I wanted to take a lot of the Necromancy spells. Oh, I will summon a Demon Most Foul. Thank you, Hell Knight. I will summon our Demon Prince. Hi, this is Stolas. He's a Demon Prince. He's got 26 legions of demons, and he will tell you about astrology, precious stones, and herbs that may or may not be poisonous.
He's got long, long legs.
He's got long, long legs! Look at him! He's so tall. That's why he's in the corner. He's too tall. But yeah. So the thing about Necromancers was like, yeah, especially if you take up a lot of the Necromancy spells, I learned my role as a Necromancer was not DPS, but it was more debuff support, like aggressive support, by being more debuffing enemies, like trying to use Ray of Enfeeblement or try to blind or deafen people, maybe inflict fear on people regularly, and even when you get to the point where you're at level 6 or level 5, depending on when you want to pick up Enemy Dead, you're then there to create more enemies on the battlefield to make... Hey, Azaria? Maybe when Nocti's talking, I may summon another demon. But like, I realized, like, no, these undead are not necessarily here for DPS, like, unless if I'm using the spell Summon Undead. Like, if I just animated the dead, or use a spell like Dense Macabre, which can, like, make 5 corpses come to life.
Great name for a spell, too.
Yeah. It's so good. I love it, and I love the song. Like, they're not there to do the DPS. Even if your ability as a Necromancer allows them to be a bit bulkier, and oddly enough do proficiency bonus to the damage, not to the attack roll, which is weird. Like, they can do damage, but they're not there for that, because they're gonna get murked so quickly.
Right.
They're there to distract or, like, burn an action from the enemy.
You get a little bit of action dichotomy and stuff like that.
Yeah. Alright, so we want some magic lore. Let's see, what's some good necromancy lore I could think of that's related to this? Yeah, okay, no, I'll go in a different, my favorite kind of undead. Easily vampires. I love vampires. Okay, so the reason why I love vampires so much is I love the idea that vampires are such an anomaly for the undead. Because, like, there's, like, 2 main categories of the undead, right? Because you have, like, zombies, skeletons, all these corpses coming to life, right? And then you have, like, spirits, which are, like, ghosts, like, specters, like, these more phantasmal beings that are just the soul. But vampires are physical and sentient, like, they do have a soul. But I like the theme of them having more, like, a soul dementia, where, like, what made them human is essentially withering away, so they latch on to something that they felt like made them human, and as a result, as they try to pretend to be more human, that's when they become more like the monster, and it's just like, it's such a good theme that I love going into. But yeah. That's why my necromancer became a vampire. But not just any vampire, he became a water vampire.
Alright, you're gonna have to elaborate on that a little bit.
Okay, so basically in the setting that we were playing in, and there was like these creatures called Bajakas. And Bajakas were essentially vampires that lived in the water. There was like this big massive body of water called the Spill, where like a bunch of undead stuff happened. And the thing that made these vampires different is they couldn't turn to bats, but they can turn to leeches, which is way more horrifying. They could swim incredibly fast, like they had like 60-foot swim speed. They did not have sunlight sensitivity, but they had to be hydrated often. Like, when I turned into one, I had to either, like, take an hour-long bath or, like, submerge myself in water for, like, at least an hour. Or, Brattakas had the ability to control the weather slightly, so they can cast Fog Cloud at will and see through the fog cloud. So you can hotbox yourself for an hour, too. Yeah. And also, regeneration was really nice, but they had vulnerability to fire damage, and if you took that, you couldn't heal.
Interesting.
But let me tell you, as a wizard with regenerating 10 hit points every round, so good.
Some good stuff.
But no,
Also,
yeah, it was very.
I love that they can turn into like leeches and stuff.
Yeah.
However, the fact that you don't get to be able to turn into a batfish, a little disadvantageous.
Or like a
leeches is
hagfish.
better.
Do you know about hagfish?
Oh, I know about hagfish and the whale carcasses and stuff.
And the slime.
So good. Or lamprey even, just like a leech but bigger.
Yeah. I know I did I think one of the capstone spells I got for my Necromancer Yorick was Draconic Transformation, and I did flavor that more like a bat to fit the vampire theming. Because that spell gives you like wings, gives you blind sense, gives you like a breath weapon that's like 30 feet and does like 76 damage as a bonus action, so I just flavored that as like the supersonic screaming.
Very
cool. Yeg. But yeah. Also, one thing I really like about this is that because you are exposed to a lot of necromantic stuff at 10th level, it's like, okay, not only are you resistant, but your hit points can't be reduced. Which I think as a player is one of the scariest things in the book. Like I don't like stat damage that they tried to do in like 3.5, but I really like the threat of like if your hit points are drained to 0, then you're done. You're dead. Like, because that makes it feel like there's a bit more stakes and there's a lot more you can do about it. But like if the worst happens, the worst happens. You know, it's not like with like the 2 stat damage creatures in D&D where they do like 3d6 stat damage and it's like, okay, cool, you can kill these people in like 2 to 3 rounds. Where like even at 10th level, like that's scary, but like that could take a little bit, and it's just a way for a DM to actually kill players if they really wanted to. And lastly, their capstones is really cool of just the ability of just like possessing other undead.
You're mine now.
Yeah, essentially. And it's like, yeah, if their intelligence is good, they just have advantage on the saving throw. You know?
It is interesting that you have to wait until about 6th level or so till you can get the like undead thralls and stuff, because when you think necromancer, you're thinking about raising the dead.
It's true, but you also get it for free, and that's just scaling with other wizards, so like, I get it. It's kind of worth the wait, honestly. But no, it's very valid, and
because
yeah,
almost all wizards, like in the player's handbook at least, have the like savant stuff on their School of Magic to make things a little bit easier for them in that school specifically.
Yeah.
So that's understandable.
I do think they made it a bit better post Tasha's with Summon Undead, which is a lot more of like, you don't need a corpse, and you don't need to do as high maintenance as Animate Dead. Because Animate Dead is essentially like, alright, you made the skeleton your little servant. Just make sure you refresh it every day, so it doesn't just go knucking butts.
Right.
But Summon Undead's a lot more short term, but it's like, you get to summon a skeleton that can just shoot things really far, or like a ghoul that like poisons things around it, or maybe even paralyze at worst. Or my favorite, the Ghost, which has a fly speed, can move through things, and inflict fear every time it hits them.
Tasha's added a lot of good summon, like, insert creature type here spells. I think Xanathar's also added a lot of good, like, necromancy spells and stuff that work well with, like, obviously, Necromancer.
Yeah. I mean, hell, Summon Undead was especially my bread and butter because you add the damage to your proficiency modifier with any undead you summon, as well as hit points are increased by like your wizard level to that undead. So that applies to an undead you summon.
You gotta love a literal meat shield.
Yeah, I mean that's what necromancy's good for, other than debuffing enemies. Like, yeah. But yeah, no, I literally could talk days about my necromancy Uric, and all that. But if you want to say something before I just enable myself, go ahead.
So, while I was thinking at some of the classes and stuff like that, I was thinking of what would be good for multi-classing, because that's a big deal for a lot of people. They want to do those, like, power combinations and stuff.
Yeah.
And what would you think of the Fighter Arcane Knights?
Oh, Eldritch Knight?
Yes.
Ooh, here's the thing. I do like Eldritch Knight. Eldritch Knight is pretty neat. But I would say that's something I feel like you really have to commit to do their cool shit. Because the whole thing about Eldritch Knight is, if you can see here on stream, they're quarter casters, which means they level up their spells 4 times as slow as anyone else. And you can do a lot of cool stuff with this, because fighters get action surge, which basically is how you can do 2-leveled spells in a turn. It's the only way you can. But I feel like if you're multi-classing to fighter, it's better to be a spellcaster who's dipping into fighter. But also, that idea of being level 13 and doing a fireball, then action surging to take care of all the ones remaining is really cool.
A lot of interesting things that do where it's like, all right, this is a martial class, but this other subclass, they added a little bit of, like, you know, warlock, or they added a little bit more of druid here. Or like vice versa, you know, you got like the Fey paladins and all that kind of stuff, or like the war caster wizards.
No, I love Oath of Ancients. Oath of Ancients is a real solid one. I also played that. I'm on the last arc of a campaign that I have an Oath of Ancients paladin. And this is a campaign that I play with one of my best friends, Cara Burb. She streams every now and then. Here, I'll shout her out because we have an audience. But how she started a campaign was essentially, the premise was all of us were already dead and we're in a purgatory type place.
Interesting start.
So like that way it gave them a space to be like, yeah, I can kill you guys, but death isn't going to be the penalty. It's going to be more so what happens if you died too much. And we found out surprisingly recently that if we die too much, we lose things from our character sheet. Like, they're just gone. Like, we get to pick what goes, but it's like, alright, do you want a class ability, a race ability? What are you removing? As, like, a thing of, like, no, you're dying, and it's your soul. Like, that's taking the brunt of it, not, like, your body. But, yeah. We also did, like, wacky things when we started. Like, the first session was, like, all we came in with was, like, our pitches for the character. We didn't have any classes in mind, or we were told not to think about classes. And it really was just like, hey, we're even gonna roll stats as we see, like, a skill relating to that stat occur. So, like, say, some of us were found chained up, and we wanted to pick the locks, that's when we would roll all our dexterity to know, like, what even is our dex. And, exactly, great eyebrows, you get it. Yeah, I eventually chose Paladin because I noticed my character sort of taking lead and being more of, like, group leader. And mind you, his name is, first off, I'm proud of him because he's got a cool name. His name's Atticus Sawyer. He's a half-orc, and he was a carpenter in life who just wanted to make a house. Like, he just wanted to make his own house. Like, build up enough money so he could just make his own house. And whoops-a-doops, he died in the incident. And yeah.
The incident being...
That's a good question. We're gonna find out in this last arc what the incident truly is.
There is a very dark part of me that kind of hopes that he, like, slipped off, like a ladder or something while trying to work on the roof.
No, I know he killed a man.
Something...
I know he ended up killing a man.
Alright, that's a bit of a leap, but, like...
Hey, there's some stuff going on, but basically he saw, like, one of our other characters is a robot artificer, who we found out was made to die? Like, not be destroyed, but, like, die! And, like, like, we made this thing have a soul, so we could see what happens when someone fucking dies, and that is existentially horrifying. But like, really early on, I became, like, a dad character, so, like, you know, to this, like, hello world robot, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll protect you. If anything happens to you, I'll kill everyone in this room, including myself. And just, like, seeing essentially, like, her creator be killed, by someone, and the DM picking up on how righteous he can be during, like, some acts of, like, injustice. He's like, alright, this is what would happen. And it's like, fuck, that would, and I hate that. I hate it. I hate you're putting the pieces together like, yeah, I fucking would do that. Fuck!
Calling it Android 16 is great.
Think of Android 18, but a lot less, yeah, I could kill you, but more like, hello, yes, my name is Theta, I can do things that are cool. Hell, you know what, I can shout out this person too. This is Vivian VTuber.
You gotta love being able to shout out people.
It's so great.
It's such a powerful feeling.
Oh, I should probably do the SO thing, so then
get loved on.
Be perceived. But yeah, no. Just the aura of being resistant to magical damage, like spell damage, is so good.
Mm-hmm. Paladins with their auras.
Paladins really just be like, haha. Like, you'd be like, ha ha ha, a fireball will go through you because you have poor dexterity. And they go, no, with their aura, which includes themselves. Also, I cannot rest enough how clutch Misty Step is as a paladin.
Misty Step plus sword can be very interesting.
Yeah, especially when you're the tank and you're like, fuck, someone's in danger. I need to go there so I can heal them.
That's just the blast of energy comes at the enemy, and then just as the light kind of parts away, instantly teleporting there with the shield ready, the paladin.
Yeah.
Such a, like, Avengers Captain America moment.
Mm-hmm. And I like flavoring it because I feel like the idea of this character is not like, I made an oath. It's more like, no, he's doing this with, like, his sheer force of will. So it's like manifesting himself to just to be there. Dad is here.
Paladins as father figures.
Mm-hmm.
A very good trope.
And I will say, I like Atticus, but he's very much a dad in the good ways and in the bad ways. Of, like, I'm here to protect you, but also... And, like, I'm emotionally intelligent, but also what I say can come off as very, very rejection sensitivity to you. Like, I'm going to press the buttons that are bad while trying to support you.
Oof. Oof.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. Like, he's great, but it's definitely a type of person, like, he's great, but, like, also you're gonna talk about him, like, man, he kind of was, like, weird with his timing about this one thing. Really weird after, you know, this whole, like, we battled this, like, massive slime thing, and he asked me what's my plans for the future. Like, what, my guy? But, yeah, no, Oath of Ancients is super solid. Honestly, I think Oath of Ancients is like a weird. It's weird because when I think of like what's the real like fighter with magic, and I feel like that's just a ranger in general.
Hmm?
Because like
Very
Paladin's a lot more cleric in the sense that it's offensive, but it's mostly like tanky support off. Like really, Paladin's just the real jack of all trades in D&D. Where
Forget bards.
yeah, forget bards.
Real charisma caster.
Yeah, but like rangers at least have like no, they have maybe not arcane, but they have like things that feel magical. Like say ensnaring strike or like the Zephyr Strike or like cool spells like maybe even Spike Growth or things that just like do magical stuff while also being incredibly martial.
I like to see a lot of classes as a combination of two other classes. So for like ranger, I think of it as like a fighter and a druid mix.
Yeah, with like with the squinge of rogue.
Or that's just, fighters are rogues plus paladins. Paladins are just fighters plus clerics. That kind of stuff.
They don't have skill expertise, but what they do is punchy expertise.
Yeah. It's just a fun little, like, mental noticing of, like, patterns and stuff. Like, bards are kind of like sorcerers mixed with a rogue and whatnot.
Yeah. Rogue.
I call them that. Till Artificer came in, and it's just like wizard plus I don't know what.
That's because there's no other intelligence casters, and I don't blame them. Hey, remember when Mystic was a thing?
That's certainly been a long time.
So for anyone who doesn't know, now in modern D&D, we have like psionic subclasses where people could be like psychics and some variation. But for the longest time, like for like at least 2 to 3 years, like before Artificer came out, D&D was consistently reworking like Artificer and a class called the Mystic was essentially going to be their answer to psionics and like psychic people, right? And how they were made was essentially they were like a go big or go home, like a warlock, where you have like a pool of points or a pool of dice, and you can spend them almost like an economy to decide how powerful you want things to be. Like if you just wanted to blast your whole load, use all those dice all at once, you could, or you can like distribute them however you wanted. But also the abilities were really strong, and the subclasses really didn't feel like it was specific to any flavor, so it felt like really unfocused. It was like, but I could do all these things, and I'm cool and strong. It really feels like it has the problem of a lot of D&D horror stories would have.
D&D horror stories are such a thing.
They really are.
It's a sad truth to like the enjoyment. Like not every table is going to be your cup of tea. Not every group is going to be the type of playstyle you want to run. But then there are just some people that just, not to gatekeep, but should not be playing this game.
Like
figure themselves out first.
Yeah, like the worst experience I've had, and this isn't even a worst experience. This is just like one player that was like kind of shitty. It was the first time I played D&D. It was like a year-long campaign. The only one I've gotten from 1 to 20 in. Because the DM was very fuck it.
Respectable.
Yeah. But he was like a guy, of course he played a rogue. He played a Aarakocra rogue, which I feel like is my deep-seated hate towards Aarakocra comes from, besides their like 60-foot flying speed at level 1. But he just played that because it was optimal. He was only there to roll dice, not even for like any of our chucklefuck roleplay. And I want you to know, like, this party consisted of I played a bard, a half-orc bard named Cabbage.
Aww.
Yeah, basically he had the backstory of Rapunzel, but like the idea of like, what if instead of like the firstborn being like someone like important for like this royal family, the woman like essentially tricked her like, yeah, I just got another kid before whoever you wanted. Fuck you. I'll marry the guy now. And it's like, I hate this. I already made this tower and everything. I guess he's going in there. And at one point he was like, what if I just leave? And then he did. And all he had was a little ukulele that got quickly smashed by the Baba Yaga to be a melodica, like 2 sections in. And it was the only melodica in the world. Yeah, so we have that. We had a wizard that just made bombs because they found out that gunpowder existed in the setting. So they're like, I just want to make bombs. So she made a bunch of different types of bombs. Like, first we started with fire bombs. Most of all with ice bombs. At one point they tried to make a bomb out of a frog and it became the bomb. The fun fact, the bomb blew up one of our party members' like backstory characters that was gonna be set up for like a boss fight because we had this drought paladin in the first act, but they wanted to leave so they could DM a game for like the D&D club that we're in, and despite this being an important moment, it's like, alright, we got this big bomb, we can enlarge it. We can go into rope trick to essentially not be in the blast radius and just one-shot him. Oh, and it did.
Big frog bomb.
Frog bomb? Yeah. So you got that. We had an illiterate Dragonborn fighter who was very petty about the fact that, like, you know, that he very insecure is the right word, about the fact that he could not read and was not considered smart despite him trying to come up with ideas. And when he picked up levels of wizard, the DM basically let him treat it as like wild magic because he could not read the spells that he was picking up. And that led to probably one of the most wild sessions of D&D I've had in terms of just a series of comedic events. So basically, we were trying to infiltrate this like group of like vampire tax evaders, right?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful sentence.
By like alien IRS. So we try to go in, and he's convinced that there's cars, by the way, in this setting.
Okay.
He's convinced that like all the tax money is in like the guy's car, right? So he tries to cast a spell, accidentally does like a high level charm spell that makes us have to try and like go with his bullshit. So like we're very pettily going around for a few hours trying to find a car, but we know there's no car, so we just waste time there. And then when we're gonna sneak through these tunnels to get underground, we all get petty and like invisible each other except for the fighter, except for the illiterate Dragonborn, and we go in and we get caught at some point. And this is when the shenaniganery begins, as they try to cast spells to try and get around this, in which a series of multiple wild magic surges happened, where like, first, everything within the X amount, like 20-foot radius became invisible, magical butterflies became everywhere, he teleported into like this narrow hallway where the guards are coming in, became enlarged, in this tunnel, grabbing one of these guards to like try and salvage anything from this to like interrogate, casted grease on the other side of the tunnel, and eventually was able to scrangle his way out. And we got like, alright, we got this one guy here, and I guess we're gonna interrogate him where like this vampire tax evader is going. And so what we tried to do is we tried to cast Dream on him while he's knocked out to try and like convince him, like twist his loyalty so he'd be on our side, like realize, no, we're the good guys. And so we go into the dream and we sort of see like this moment of like these like men in black trying to take him away from his parents, and we're like, oh no, he's really stressed. What if we go even deeper? And we do another dream. In the dream, we Inception.
God damn.
And we go even further back, and another tragedy had just passed. And it goes to, like, this weird mech battle against him, like, these vampires, and us, like, with this, like, mech battle through animate objects, and we got a very loyal companion, but
At what cost?
And the other mentionable party member is a paladin we got. And he was just like, his aesthetic was essentially very, like, very Dutch. Like, the big, floofy beard, like, very frilly, like, sort of thing you'd see, like, Shakespeare have with the armor and everything. And he developed a sort of oath to, like, we called him the House Paladin. Specifically because in the first session, there were a lot of, like, we essentially had, like, a zombie survivalist situation where we found a house in the middle of nowhere where we're, like, level 1, and we essentially rolled really well to its survival to barricade the house, and just essentially we're trying to, like, poke through these barriers to try and, like, get rid of these zombies or, like, vampires trying to come in, and we got ridiculous luck with the paladin, so it's like, nah, he's the House Paladin. He's got an oath to the hearth. He's just a very polite boy. It was a very chucklefuck party, but it was very nice.
Sometimes those can be the absolute best.
It sure was also my first experience with D&D, so it took me to, like, 15th level to realize, oh shit, I need magical weapons. Like, I just had a normal ass rapier, because, like, oh, well, I don't need those magical items. You could take those, you know? Because, like, what am I gonna need? And I also made the mistake of going in a hard healer for Bard, because I thought, oh, being a support would be really good for a party, especially for a bigger team. But then I realized, man, I only used my big healing spells, like, twice in the entire campaign. So don't ever make a character just for support, especially when they're not a caster that can prepare spells.
So, like, nice that you had the option to, at least.
Yeah.
You might not have had to cast it a lot of times, but those few times.
But that one time I needed to mass cure wounds. when like, you know, this is before, like, it is Breath of the Wild came out, but the best way I could describe the one time I needed you mass cure wounds was when we fought essentially one of those sentry things from Breath of the Wild.
Uh-huh. Which, oh dear lord.
This campaign was wild because it started off as a vampire campaign, but then turned out to be a secret plot about aliens being involved, and the main vampire was using the alien technology after he found out there was a rip in the world that would eventually destroy, like, the big cosmos and everything. So it was like, no, I'm gonna destroy it now and fuck around in space. And how the campaign resolved itself was, we're level 20. We got into, like, we eventually found a mech in the penultimate session that was powered by friendship.
Oh god.
Like, it was literally mechanics about, like, how well we were cooperating, and role-playing would determine how well we'd fight as the robot. So, like, we were about to fight this big bad vampire, who's, like, not Dio, but his name's Conrad, but I'm gonna call him not Dio. Mm-hmm. And he's like an honorable type villain, so he's like, alright, you're all invited to my cool spaceship, but you have one day before I'm gonna fire the laser. And, you know, we try to do things like the end, like, wraps up any last minute things, but our illiterate dragonborn just goes, hey, I picked up brewery proficiency. I'm just gonna make some beers before it all ends. And we go up in the mech, we go to the ship, and we come up to the vampire. And our illiterate dragonborn just goes, hey, before we go out, how about we have one last drink? And him and the vampire take a drink, and he goes, as he drinks the beer, there's something in session 1 that we all got, which was essentially cyanide rocks to have in case we were ever captured and not tell information. And vampires are not immune to poison, for some reason. But the DM's like, alright, I'll humor this. And they roll. It's a natural 1. The save was DC 30, which he was very confident the vampire could beat. Because he gave him like a bullshit, like, plus 29, because he made him like a level 60 character.
Not Dio, but Dio.
Yeah. But, like, it was a total of 28 the con modifier. It was the one way he would fail, and he just chokes and dies. And he tells us, like, right after we have this moment of euphoria, after he tells us, like, alright, so he had over, like, 500 hit points. He had 5 attacks, each one of them having a chance to instant kill. And a ring of 3 wishes. And we're like, and you know who would win? One Rocky Boy!
Like I said, sometimes the most outlandish stories are the ones that are worth retelling.
It is, yes.
And the dice have their own plans for the story.
Yes. Yes. Because, oh my god. I don't know, do you have any kinds of characters that you're really proud of either playing, like, with their subclass, you know, to keep in theme, or even just wild stories you wanna share?
So, kind of branching on what we talked about, necromancers earlier. One of my favorite classes is the sorcerer.
Oh, yes, I love the flavor of sorcerer.
And on the last time that we had a campaign before the Big Sick, my partner and I got to be in a campaign together. And my partner has, often mused about, I kind of want us to have like a little relationship between our characters form or something like that, and just be something nice. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll, work towards my character and all that. And I'm just like constantly, hey, I'm gonna play a sorcerer. I'm gonna make it like a devotee to like the Raven Queen, and it's gonna be like an ASMR and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna go Shadow Sorcerer because I like edgy stuff, but it's gonna be playing off as like a friendly kind of guy who's just got edgy aesthetics.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's basically my necromancer until, he did eventually make an undead army in the, like, end game. But that was in extreme circumstances.
Dead Corpse is gonna happen. But, like, my sorcerer was actually hunting undead for the Raven Queen, all this kind of stuff. My partner, who's expecting, wants to get in a relationship with characters and all that kind of stuff, decides to make a necromancer. And not just any necromancer. This necromancer was called Gnarl. As in gnarly. Gnarl was either a halfling or a gnome. I think it was a halfling because their character before that was a gnome. And this halfling was supposed to be like the bad end version of that campaign character.
Yeah.
Where they had different body parts sewn up from like different creatures, like some kind of magic thread that kept it from like rotting or whatever. And so they were just this absolute creature who my sorcerer, understandably, could not stand. I found out they were a necromancer. It's like, okay, they're a little eccentric, they're a wizard, okay. No, that's a zombie. This cannot stand.
It's so great when you're a necromancer and you summon the undead around a party and they're just like, hey, what did you just do? Like I love the jumps.
What do you have there? A smoothie?
Yeah. No, I love the jumps with necromancers, because like I know when I was like first able to summon the undead, the party was very much like, hey, I know you talked about you like wanting to do this, but like actually seeing you do it's kind of weird. And then like at late game when I get like access to Soul Cage, first what Soul Cage does.
It's been a hot minute since I've seen it, but I remember enough about it.
So, Soul Cage is a spell you can cast as a reaction. It's a 6th level spell. And you can essentially yoink a soul that has just died and put it into a little bird cage. So, you could do things like drain hit points from it, Asking questions it must answer honestly. Scry anywhere that it's been in life. Or, like, borrow its proficiency. And you can use any of these up to 6 times, as long as it's within 8 hours. And so, you know, when you just kill a man who may have been a serial killer, but also the people who look are like, hey, you guys put his soul in a little cage, though. You didn't just let him die.
That's when you just look at him and go, I'll do it again.
No, they're very much like, why would you do that? It's like, but we have questions. You could speak to the dead. Yeah, but this was cool.
I can do it twice.
But understand, I could ask one more question than I would with Speak with Dead.
So, we had like a good amount of sessions of just like actually playing in this little story with these characters. I think that's one of the reasons I enjoyed playing the characters so much, is I actually got to like see some stories come to fruition, because a lot of my other DMs would start a story and then it would just quickly fall off for one reason or another.
Ah, yeah.
But with this group, we got pretty darn far in until a certain virus came along.
Before the plague times.
And with all of its plague rats with it. But I digress.
Plague-ridden rat.
We had bumped heads, basically just the sorcerer and the necromancer coming to understand, like, hey, we don't like each other, but we have missions and like a bigger thing between us. We'll fight each other later once everything is like settled out. And so we end up having to go into the Underdark to get to like a secret path to deal with some Duergar who are blotting out the sun or something like that.
You know how it is.
And typical D&D high fantasy fun stuff. We get down there, we've dealt with a few monsters here and there, and we come across this like big pit with a giant mushroom in it. Turns out the giant mushroom is sentient, uses like some charm spores, whatever. It looks very vaguely feminine looking. My sorcerer gets, put underneath it. Everyone has a big laugh. Until I start rolling really well with the sorcerer. And, the necromancer and other people who aren't charmed are, fighting not only the giant mushroom, but trying to keep my sorcerer from murking them. The, necromancer, Gnarl, summons up some zombies and stuff from various, like, mushroom-filled corpses in the area.
Right, yeah.
And as my character, the DM let me control my character still for the most part, trust me and stuff. I asked him, is there any problem with me going after these, like, zombies first? Because there's a very strong part of my character that just naturally wants to take care of zombies. He's like, no, that's fine. So my Shadow Sorcerer goes like full on Shadow Blade and just like starts going to town on these zombies every time they come up. So good that, was taking care of them. However, those were Gnarl's friends, because Gnarl also has like a zombie scroll or whatever that they kept with them. So once the charm spell was done, there was Gnarl taking some revenge for fallen comrades. And trying to be the bigger person in the situation, my sorcerer just kind of took it and was talking to the others about just kind of going on, while Gnarl was literally stabbing them with a knife. It's just like a show of like, yeah, between the two of us, I'm the logical, reasonable one. Please don't listen to anything this little creature says with its evil necromancy.
Meanwhile, Gnarl over here is like, I'll kill you!
Yeah. And just, like, casting spells, like, stabbing with daggers and stuff when they hit. And just was like, shall we continue? And just starts walking off down the path that we were going. With 1 hit point left! That was just such a mood. And I don't think I could ever get that lucky.
No, that's very choice.
But one thing specifically that drew me to the idea of doing a Shadow Sorcerer, as you've done your tier list and all that, you look through all of them and stuff.
Yes, Shadow Sorcerer is very choice.
They got the Hound of Ill Omen.
Oh, they get a dog, which honestly is very high. automatically excels the subclass.
And not even just that, it's kind of got that black shuck kind of like flavoring to it and like the myths of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of worked that in with like a temple door being like scratched up and like, anyways.
Yeah. I know.
There's
Oh. Go ahead.
There's nothing in the book that says you can't have more than one Hand of Ill Omen, correct?
I think it is intended to only have one, but...
But it doesn't say so.
Wait, no, you get some use your sorcery points, so yeah, I guess if you had enough.
Sorcery points. But sorcerers also have the ability of turning their spell slots into sorcery points.
Oh fuck, did you just summon so many hounds?
I did the math. Each dog lasts for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you can summon one every like turn or whatever, which each turn lasts about 6 seconds, go from there. If you cannibalized all of your spell slots into sorcery points and used it only to summon Hounds of Ill Omen, you could have about 30 of these things going after one creature.
Jesus Christ.
At a time, and still have some spell slots left over to actually cast a few spells. And before even, like, I didn't know if the DM would go for it. Of course, they didn't get that far into being high enough level to use it. But, just in case I ever did, I sat there and came up with 30 different names for all the different
Oh my god. I know in the same campaign I'm playing Atticus, we do have a Shadow Sorcerer in the party, who was a very tragic tiefling boy. And his Hound of Ill Omen is just the ghost dog from Luigi's Mansion 3.
Aww.
Their name's Vinny, Vinny Vincent, and they will kill you for it. But he's only had to do. He summoned him a lot for like flavor reasons, but like only once I think he's used it to kill, and that was like his sister and like his very very evil, no good, very bad sister.
Love it.
Who is named Amy because of the joke of there's one demon from the like Solomon Key that's just named Amy, and we found that really fucking funny.
It is a good name. Biblical in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's been plenty of like little moments like that between, you know, being a DM or being an actual player character, and just D&D's full of like little stories of that.
Oh yeah. Also, speaking of Amy, I think because I know someone wanted to summon another demon most foul. So while you were talking about that, I think I have something ready. Just
what you got?
Don't worry about it. It's gonna give me a minute. I gotta export it. So got that. OBS. It's time to conjure. Time to do one of the big wizard things I can do. Do. All right. Yes, I would like to go on my desktop where I put it. I would like to search for it. There we go. Alright, so we summoned a demon most foul. We got Amy, demon president, year 666 to present.
Absolutely beautiful.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, I made Amy shrink. Alright, I gotta resummon Amy. I gotta get another Amy. I gotta seek Amy, guys. I gotta Britney Spears seek Amy.
Man, it's already hating it seems.
Thanks,
So hi, Melody.
What? What do you hate about Amy, demon president from year 666 to the present? They won the presidency fair and square. They totally won't ask for a revote. They don't. They never did. You're crazy. You're all crazy. You know, we can get There we go. We have the whole family here. We have the whole family here.
Only slightly dysfunctional.
Now this is VTubing. You know, since we're summoning all these demons, why don't we just, give Warlock a shot? What's one of your favorite Warlock subclasses?
So, I have been wanting to do a Hexblade for a little while now.
Really?
Whenever it came to the Shadow Sorcerer, it came down to either doing a Fallen ASMR Shadow Sorcerer or Shadar Kai Hexblade.
Huh.
And I sat there for the longest time trying to decide between the
two. Dude, honestly, the thing about Hexblade is it's very much a class that's honestly first off confused.
Mm-hmm.
It's so confused, and there's a reason why I think it was D tier on my tier list, was because it's one of those things you see a lot of people go towards it, and especially because I think Ford Critical Role also did it, so that also helps popularity of a class, I think.
Right, it's in the limelight.
Yeah, but it's one, people only want it for the initial ability, and I get it. I don't blame people for that because that's a big appeal for a lot of the subclasses that are level 1. But it's something I think that the idea of having charisma being your attacking thing, I think should just apply to any Pact of the Blade thing in general. And with Hexblade 2, it's so confused in what flavor it wants to be. Does it want to be a cursed weapon? Does it want to be the Shadowfell? Because I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
You could flavor it in different ways. You could say that your Hexblade comes from Oberon's Armory or something like that.
That's true, but then it's okay, cool. I guess they'll summon ghosts? And curse people?
People die in the Feywilds as well.
You know how Oberon's just man, I hate it when Jeffrey dies. By the way, that was his real name. So I guess you could have him for a little bit. You can rent him.
As a treat.
As a treat. But yeah, it's so out there in a weird way, and even, oh god, I'm looking at its spells. Why does it get Phantasmal Killer?
For the edge?
Huh?
For the edge?
I guess? But it's so weird because I'm looking at these spells, and I think at the time I didn't really shit on it. Oh, think of the stretch, Neo. I'm gonna stretch. Go for the wrists too, because I noticed wrists have been pretty ouchy recently, so we have to stretch those too. Alright. But it's got spells like Shield and Wrathful Smite, which makes sense. Having it be martial, inflict fear on people to keep that warlocky vibe. Blur, I guess, to make yourself seem more cryptid-like and a better smite spell that paladins get. Elemental weapon, sure, I guess. Blink, weird, but okay. But Phantasmal Killer, I don't know. Feels weird for this mostly martial build to be and worst fears, I cut you in worst fears now.
Just kind of Batman become their worst nightmare.
I'm in Batman Begins, the Batman film no one remembers, and I'm Scarecrow now. Boo boo boo.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I was interested in, but then we also got the the amulets or
I know one of my players in a dragon game, in a game I call Drakuza, because it's the dragon Yakuza. They have the talisman. Yeah.
Being able to form a little bit more bond with your party by like, here, I'm your patron now.
Here, I will allow you to get a D4 if you fail. But I think a real good one that would have been good for like the vibe you're going for of like someone who's chosen by the undead and make it more like a the Raven Queen would be now undead, objectively the better subclass. But I just over to the Undying Warlock. Just because is the Undying Warlock better? No. It's from Sword Coast Guide, so you know it's not good.
Right.
Because the only good thing from Sword Coast was Bladesinger. That's it. But I like the flavor of Undying Warlock a lot more. Mostly because I think the Undead Warlock, that one's a lot more like, you made a deal with some lich or undead thing and you're more enforcing their power. The Undying feels a lot more like an apprenticeship, or like you're here to like learn about the undead and how you could achieve similar things, because their goal is essentially get immortality, and I think that's a pretty spice. And I like some of their spells a bit more. Like, again, is Undying make a lot more sense? Yes. But like also like things like False Life, which scales really well upcasted. Cause I don't know, hey, Nocturnal thing, do you wanna know a fun fact about False Life?
Go for it.
So False Life at level 1 gives you a D4 plus 4 temporary hit points. Which is okay. Pretty solid at early levels. But say, what if you upcast it? Do you add more 4s? No, idiot. You add an additional plus 5 for every level casted up. Which means even at level 2, you're gonna get a D4 plus 9 temporary hit points. And it's not the dice that scales up. It's essentially 9 and then added 5s afterwards. Which is really good.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, so like at level 5, if you cap, because Warlock cap, like you are essentially getting 29 temporary hit points, minimum 30 temporary hit points, which at that point at level 10 is like, that's a good hit or two that you are shrugging off and buying time of, and could be worth the spell slot if you compare it to like the evocation it just gives you, False Life at will, because like that's good if you need like buffer time, not so much if you need more like assurance to get out of there.
Right.
Having access to silence, which is surprisingly only cleric and bard, to shut down other spellcasters is so good. Because, like, silence basically is the no-talkie zone. You've done the quiet game. It's a spell I wish I had in real life, because because overstimulation is bad, and it's always sound with me. And just to either be in a bubble of silence, or just go, stop! It's great. But yeah, that could shut down casters, and I like to be generous with people who upcast a lot, because I think if you're expending more energy to cast a spell, I think the spell should be better, you know? And with something like silence, like, dude, you can increase the radius by like 10 feet, possibly. And that could be wild as like this being a big move for you to do. You can also fake your death, which I think is funny.
A spell for the dramatic.
No, I know one time, when I was doing a very short-lived pirate campaign before the plague,
Ooh, pirates.
yeah, it actually inspired me to make my general setting that I use for, like, like D&D games where I just need a setting to plop in.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a warlock that took like the Pact of the Tome and essentially got an invocation where he could put down ritual spells. And he joked about the idea of like having this guy like fake his death as the captain while just being locked in his office for 10 minutes going, "Oh no!" Like, oh! And whenever the players would be able to open it, be like, "I'm dead!" Fake death finishes casting. Or in a current campaign I'm in, so it's one game I'm in called Woodfall, and it's based on a setting I think you could buy. It's essentially a supplement, and our vibe of the group is very much we are coworkers who happen to be working with each other, but don't really like or trust each other. But one of the players is a death cleric, who is like a reborn Triton catfish. And they're a wholesome little guy. But because they don't normally sleep, they sometimes cast Feign Death on themselves to emulate sleep.
Just go belly up.
to just plunge. And also just the idea of having legend lore as a war just is really cool. That's a big reason why I'm like, this one better, actually. I want to know secrets.
Very fair. It's not just for bards anymore.
It's not for just bards and wizards. And also just the idea of, like, when you initially fight the undead, you always have, like, they have disadvantage on you till, like, they succeed a wisdom saving throw, which is really cool. And also you get Spare the Dying as a warlock, which is really cool. Yeah, without necessarily being a support, you're more just like, no, you don't need to die yet.
It's not your time.
It's not your time. And then you get to be like... And then, like, whenever you pass, like, your death saving throws, you get hit points back, too, to make yourself feel a lot more survivable. Or it applies to people you do Spare the Dying with. And although I do think I would change it to, like, equal times to, like, proficiency... I do think this is a fun spice of once per long rest. Like, I would change it. But if someone was playing it by the rules here, that's still just spicy if, like, you have your choice of how do you want to... Who will you save, yourself or others?
As you said, spice, but Bryce is spice life.
Yeah. And, like, here with, like, you don't need to eat or breathe. And it's like, that's something that, like, has become very weirdly normalized in D&D now.
True.
With robots and undead being a thing.
I really need to make a Dampire character at one point.
Dude, same. No, I have played Dampire before. Because, once again, in a D&D game I play, we essentially, this is a more on and off campaign just because of scheduling. But my group essentially want to do a Secret Santa campaign where we, the players, made characters for other people in the party.
I love that already.
And
I thought it was something similar.
And the character I got was named Duke Bramble Duke Bramble of Pippenbarrow, and he was essentially a Haragon Dampire, which is a little bunny boy, and he wanted to learn how to become a vampire to become serious because, like, he's just a little rabbit guy, and he fucked up the ritual, so he just became a Dampire, and
Banicula.
He's Banicula, and he is... And I went in immediately like, oh yeah, I'm being cartoonishly evil and, like, genuinely wanting to manipulate people, but no one's going to enable it because I'm just a funny little guy. Like, can I be very problematic and legit gaslight people to be evil? Yeah, but, like, also, this guy's, like, 3 foot tall and is, like, a bunny.
So, speaking of, like, Christmas little one-offs and stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much other people making characters for each other. I made a bunch of like pre-made character sheets themed around specifically the like claymation Christmas special movies and stuff. So there was like a druid that represented Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, a rogue that represented Hermie the dentist elf. There was a furbolg like yeti that we called Bumble, and like all these other types from it.
But where's the sorcerer twins? That's the Heatmeister and Freezemeister.
I think I had at least one of those, but of course one of them.
The Heatmeister would be easier, but also the Freezemeister would have been.
I'm also pretty darn sure that I had a bard that was Jack Skellington, and his instrument was the saxophone.
Oh, yes.
But I just assigned.
What about the bones chord?
That would have been good too. I just assigned each of the character sheets like a number, gave them like a bunch of numbers in a hat, and had them draw for them.
Nice.
And I had a pretty good time of them trying to go figure out who the heck stole Santa. They had to go. They like checked some usual suspects. There was a hobgoblin that was green who was very grinchy.
But he stole Christmas, not Santa. See,
right.
The Grinch just hated capitalism of Christmas.
That's why he wasn't the culprit.
Yeah, because really the Grinch is a socialist icon.
But him and his hound pet were not that fond of him, interrupting his Christmas time. But they also went up against, I think, Jack Frost at one point. And then there ended up being a American God scenario of just like an Odin kind of situation with Loki. It was pretty fun.
Oh, you know what? It must have been Jack Frost, because everyone remembers the classic motion picture of the United States, Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause.
Jack Frost had his own little cartoon claymation thing, I'm pretty sure.
I know, but I'm just thinking of Tim Allen. Tim Allen, Santa Claus.
Okay, but have you seen the little meme of Old Man Dante from the recent Devil May Cry game with Virgil as like Santa Claus and Jack Frost sitting there together on the poster?
Oh my god, I haven't, but that sounds like a delight, an utter treat.
With like Virgil's hair and Jack's and that specifically. The blue motifs versus like
the red motifs? I can't believe it. I can't believe Virgil went back in time to be like, I was Santa Claus for like 20 years, actually. Man. I know it's been said before, but fucking wild. No, okay, you know what? Wild How the Initial Santa Claus is about, like, Tim Allen committing manslaughter and then committing immediate identity theft and then being gunned down by the US government for delivering presents and realizing Santa is a real entity. And then follow that up with, jeez, Tim Allen needs to fuck.
In so many words, yes. That would be the second movie in this.
We gotta have the Santa Claus as heteronormative arc. We gotta give him the Mrs. Claus. We gotta have Mrs. Claus commit identity theft. We gotta have Tim Allen.
The Robo Santa as well during all of that.
Oh fuck! I forgot about the Robo Santa trying to replace him while he's trying to be not divorced.
Uncanny Valley over here.
God. Also, important, Tim Allen committed manslaughter because he was divorced. Also another thing in there.
Have I mentioned it's been a long time since I've seen those movies?
It sure has too, and I'm going completely off memory. Though I did not remember the Robo Claus.
The last movie that he was in that I really remember things was Wild Hogs.
Wild Hogs.
It's about him and a bunch of other like comedians and stuff from movies, like going on like a motorcycle trip because they're all middle-aged and disgruntled.
No, you know what that makes me think of? That makes me think of Robin Williams playing a middle-aged man having a midlife crisis that no one remembers. Do you remember RV?
I didn't see that one, nor have I ever heard of it, I don't think.
You see, that's a film I only remember seeing because it came out in like the late 2000s, and that was around the time where you could still rent movies, and that was like a thing you'd do. I went over a sleepover. I remember seeing RV starring Robin Williams, and I'm pretty sure it's just the most heteronormative, like, dad sitcom, like, movie. But, like, is this kind of a thing where it's like, man, same energy of forgettable movie about the character just being painfully dad.
Which, if done correctly, can be fun, however.
It can be fun, but many people don't write it well because they're writing it as the painful dad. You know, there's a difference between writing the dad being bad as a dad who is bad versus someone who's like, I want to critique the bad dad.
You know what one did pretty well of that recently?
What?
Was Mitchell's vs. Machines.
See, I haven't sat down and watched that, but that looks like a great film.
I think you'll have fun.
I will. No, it's definitely one of those things like, man, I would love to see this film. I looked directly at my ADHD brain. Can we see it? No. Oh, well, good time was had by all.
It was a fun one, Mel says.
I bet it was. Hey, it's the same. See, the thing about Sony Animations, that's right, we're D&D talks on a pause. We're talking about animation now. Sony Animation? Sony Animation's wild because, like, they're very talented as a studio. If they're assigned a project they care about.
Mm-hmm.
Because for every Captain Underpants, Mitchell vs. Machines, and Spider-Verse, you will get an Emoji Movie, or I swear, if Emoji Movie was like the fucking like a monkey's paw to allow like Spider-Verse happening.
A worthy trade.
Especially because we're getting 3 Spider-Verse movies instead of 3 Emoji movies.
Not the worst timeline.
But
I will say they gave Patrick Stewart a little bit extra money with the Emoji Movie, and Patrick Stewart needs more money.
You see, here's the thing. Patrick Stewart could always use money, but also he's Patrick Stewart. With something like that, you would either have to convince him, Patrick, hi. Gay, you're an absolute icon. You and Ian McKellen, gay icons. We all love it. Do you feel like playing a piece of shit?
Literally.
Like, it's not like a movie where it's like, you can get so much money out of it. It's like, he's a former Shakespearean actor, still gets money from, like, Star Trek and, like, a bunch of other movies that he does, and it's like, who pitched the idea of, like, Patrick, baby, honey, you're gonna be in the Emoji Movie?
He's doing freaking Grubhub commercials, isn't he?
Is he?
I know freaking Mark Hamill was.
See, with Mark Hamill, the thing with Mark Hamill, though, is that makes a lot more sense to me, because Mark Hamill does a lot more just miscellaneous voice actor work, because Mark Hamill, because Mark Hamill to me just strikes as the type of person who just wants to keep working, and like, you know, yeah, he has Star Wars, and like the Joker, but like, you can't recognize Mark Hamill from the 70s and Mark Hamill now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the amount of gravel that man has added to his voice is insane.
Although there was the moment where it was one of the animations where he was playing himself, playing the Joker, and also, what's the name of the villain from The Flash who's like completely insane?
The villain from The Flash. You're really working on me in my Flash Rogues gallery.
Anyways, like, he's playing 3 people in a car, using close to the same voice. And it's just like, he's played all these, both these people.
I think I've seen this. No, yeah.
The Trickster, thank you, dear freaking Lord. But that was a great scene. I think at some point, as himself, he starts doing ventriloquism, doing the voices of the other 2 to make them fight amongst each other. It was just like one of the more campier Batman cartoons, but still.
But yeah, also hell, I can't believe you don't recognize Amy, Demon President of Hell. She has 6 whole legions of demons. Do you know how many folks are in a legion? Because I'm not gonna tell you, not because I don't know.
I think it depends on the legion, because there was that one dude who's got like a bunch of souls in him, or there could just be like a bunch of different army people lined up in a row.
Dude, I'm not looking it up.
Referencing.
How many people are in a legion?
Bless
Oh
them.
shit, legions are huge actually, holy fuck. Everything 4,000 to 6,000 soldiers. Oh shit.
Respectable.
Alright, okay, hold up, BBC bite size. You're telling me a century has 80 people? I'm feeling a little questionable now.
Sounds like it should be a little bit more. Who knows which term came first? Maybe they started rounding up, and that's why they called them centuries. The English language especially is just a hodgepodge of different things. Who can really say?
Yeah. Hey, speaking of languages, this isn't subclass related, but it's D&D related. I'm gonna talk about a feat. I'm going off the rails. Me talking about the Santa Claus? Nah, I sleep. Talking about fucking Sony movies? Pfft, whatever. This is gonna be real shit. Linguist, alright? Can we just talk about... This is really just an excuse for me to talk about how fucking crazy language is in D&D. Cause like... people who are bilingual is the common. Like, if you're monolingual, you're a minority. And so, like, having the chance to get, like, 3 other languages when you already could know, like, 4 languages to begin with some subclass, with, like, some races.
Not to mention,
backgrounds.
Like, backgrounds you can take. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And just being, like, a master of languages and everything, and making your own code, like, that's cool. And also... something I would want to experiment one day for, like, either a short-term campaign or, like, something is experimenting with, like, a linguistics, like, skill. To more just identify languages, because, you know, sometimes when you ask players, like, what languages do you know? Oh, cool. It doesn't apply for anyone, so you don't know what this is, and it just is a hard roadblock. I think it'd be cool to just be like, hey, can you at least identify what language it is? Because then you could sort of pick up, like, clues if, like, ooh, is this abyssal? Oh, we might be fighting demons here. Or, like, oh shit, this is what the old civilization is, you know? And, like, maybe if you want to do, like, maybe that's how you could do forgeries, because forgeries are kind of wonky in D&D, because there's proficiencies for it, but it's very much like one of those things where, like, you could do it, but, like, we just kind of shrug and go, like, that's an option, I guess.
Plenty of opportunities for improv in D&D.
Yeah. Also, I appreciate Amy being a real president of the people, blocking the ad.
Plus.
Amy, president and anti-capitalist, a real standout in hell.
Also, Neo, enjoy your lurk.
So, is there any subclasses that you might be looking forward to play? Like, any that's been on, like, a long wish list of yours?
So there's plenty of them. I've recently had the opportunity to try out a few here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've had, at this point, a chance to play all the classes at this point at least once, either as like an NPC in one of my like hodgepodge games, or actually one of the PC opportunities, or like just doing a one shot or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm actually going to be joining a game on Saturday where I am bringing in a fighter. We're using only the player's handbook for classes and stuff, so unfortunately my idea of being able to like grab a divine sorcerer and then dual cast spiritual weapons is going to have to wait for a different campaign. But once I learned that you could do that, I was very interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
But just going to be doing a I think it was a battle master.
So you're just playing the fighter.
Yeah, I'm doing that, but giving that little bit of tiefling, giving that little bit of customization to things, and going Dread Pirate with the background with that.
Ooh, I haven't heard of Dread Pirate. Is that just pirate, or is it like different?
It's an alternate to the sailor background.
Okay, so it's just pirate.
Like,
okay.
Right. But just like adds that little flavor to the character and just like having that kind of lead their personality and whatnot.
Yeah. So, hey, Call Out to the Wizards of the Coast. Why didn't you just make the fighter class Battle Master?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, I wouldn't mind. Like, there's one thing of like, okay, you have like a ton of battle like maneuvers and everything. So the Battle Master's gimmick is they get to pick up like 2 or 3 like maneuvers that they can do to like change the fight, and they can add like a d8 to usually damage on top of like an additional effect, and it's very good. But also they give you so many options for this one subclass, and then more in Tasha's. And they're like, but you could only get it as this specific subclass. Or
also,
with a
feat. Right.
Or with a feat. But that's like saying... But it's also like saying if you had a sorcerer, right? And only one subclass could get meta magic. And then they added meta magic adept. Like... Or the same thing with like evocations, right? It feels off. Like, yeah, okay. I understand why you scale it down, because you're not investing that much into it. But like, also, come on, like, you can give other fighters different types of maneuvers. Like, maybe you make the arrows for the arcane archer the maneuvers, or like, maybe the champion's maneuvers are specifically around fishing for crits, you know?
I played a Battle Master a while back. We were doing an All Thieves Guild campaign. Didn't last very long, but I was like the only really experienced player. And like everyone else wanted to be like, I think it was a paladin and a druid, like first time players, first time making a character or anything. And I chose Battle Master because one, I was thinking about doing that with a rogue multi-class would be fun. For the story and like setting,
right?
But also, Battle Master gives not only you opportunity to change the fight, you can give people, you know, the extra little bit of like an attack if they're missing their rolls and stuff, or like moving them around the battlefield a bit more, getting them more advantageous areas so they can do more stuff on their own.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that'd be a good way of like helping them like experience the game a little bit.
No, Battle Master can be really supportive in a weird way, and it's really cool. But it's also like, man, it's really weird how it's the only... like... Because, like, I get why they want fighters to have more, like, ability improvements or, like, feats. But it also kind of feels like, cool, you could have given more maneuvers for people around those points. So then the class feels like it has a lot more uniqueness. Because, like, I like Fighter. Fighter's real solid, and, like... They never did that. Okay, cool, I'll live with it. But also, it kind of feels like they gave up on what Fighter wanted to be like halfway through. And I feel like that builds on the reputation of Fighter just being, and then you hit things really good. Instead of more of like, a person who is specifically trained in fighting, as opposed to like the barbarian who's reckless and like hard hitting and will take a lot of damage. This is more like a fighter who's very practiced and knows specific tactics and like experienced.
They have actually trained with the blades while the barbarian is just throwing them.
The barbarian
They're
is
both
going
proficient with everything, but in different reasons.
yes. The barbarian goes full Oonka Boonka, as the kids say these days.
They do be saying that.
They do. I've heard at least one young person say it before.
At least I think it was a young person.
I mean, time's not real for a fae, so like, I can only imagine what it's like for a dragon.
There's definitely some little creatures running around every now and then. Some get crushed by a rock, and then, you know, more of them start to appear.
It's like a wall spider, you crush it, and then all the young ones come out like, ah, shit.
Yes. Let's see. As far as the others, we were talking about paladins. I'm probably going to give that one another try because I haven't actually played a proper paladin. The only paladin that I can remember playing was one that was using a homebrew subclass.
Uh-huh.
And that one was just because it was just between me and one other person. We were doing like some goof off stuff, more for like role playing than actually like campaigning or anything.
Right.
And I had been going on Pinterest and stuff, looking at a bunch of different like homebrews here and there. And I found 2 homebrews, a race and a subclass. The subclass was for like a death paladin or something like that, and you got like a spectral form at like the capstone or something like that.
Right.
Kind of like the capstone for the Shadow Sorcerer, where you can become ethereal, reduce damage, all that. The race was a Dullahan race. With like the power word kill if you knew their name and everything at like high levels and stuff.
Alright.
And just the idea of playing a Dullahan Death Paladin Knight and all that fun stuff.
That is pretty cool.
Pretty fun.
But God, that makes me think of Oathbreaker and how wonky Oathbreaker is. Because, like, for those who don't know, Oathbreaker is weird. Because it's from the Dungeons Master Guide. As an example of, like, well, if you wanted to do homebrew, I guess this is how you do homebrew. They said not knowing how to make homebrew at this point in the game. Because, like, they literally just made it. It was like, I think this is how. I think you can make this work. And they make it weirdly necrotic based, even though the premise is that you just broke an oath, but I guess still have paladin powers. So, like, you know, Hellish Rebuke, okay, that's a good one. Inflict Wounds, alright, cool. Crown of Madness, which is not a good spell. Darkness, which doesn't help anyone, unless you specifically got Devil's Sight somehow. Animate... Huh?
So that was a fun moment in one of the campaigns.
Oh.
The Druid and the Warlock were having a bit of a dispute. And they were all like at a halfling party and were getting drunk. The Druid decided to shut the Warlock up by, you know, casting darkness. And the Warlock just laughs it off and is like, I got this. That was like...
That Devil's Sight.
They were just like arguing, just trying to one up each other after that. It was just
cool. I can see this. I see you.
The players were having fun, but their characters were just like about to go at each other's throats. It was great.
No, that is a real vibe right there. Like that really is again that Woodfall campaign of like none of us we love how awkward and like literally I think the second session we had this party, there was a real awkward silence as like they barely know each other, and like my hobgoblin monk was asking like, so you got any hobbies? And like no one wanted to say anything because they just don't like it just felt like weird like talk you'd have like on a cool like when you're on a water break. And this dwarf is essentially like, okay, so in this setting, we've got we're essentially fighting dwarf fascists who are Italian.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and fun fact, the country's called Praga, and
oh god,
we called it the Praga, we called the secret police the Pragan police, so they're the PP. That's the tone of the game.
Yeah, I've been sensing a little bit of theme from these conversations.
This game in particular has a lot of vibes of, it's heavily inspired by like the vibes of like Inglourious Bastards, of like, it is...
My brain went there for sure.
Yeah, like, something that should be a very serious topic, but treated in such a man-childish way, it sort of loops its way back to being so fucking funny. Because the only reason why that works is a Quentin Tarantino film, and no other film works with him. Because, like, everything else is just, like, painfully man-childish. Here, it's like, okay, this is, like, charmingly man-childish, somehow.
Another hydrate for us.
Yep. But... yeah, no, that's just the vibe of that campaign. Like... no, it's great. It's great because we could just go like, oh shit, the pee-pee's here.
Same kind of vein as the Popo kind of, like, terminology.
Mm. But, yeah. Hey, speaking of... okay, I'm going on another tangent here because I thought of like secret police and I thought of like actual cop. So are you familiar with the Ravnica?
Vaguely, since it's mostly based on the Magic Gathering kind of
Yeah.
stuff, I mostly looked at it for like the dragon like signs or like marks and whatnot and the things.
I think that's Eberron.
I think it might.
Because Eberron, I think, is the one with the dragon marks.
Doesn't Ravnica also have some stuff with like the different like color factions and stuff?
Yes, that's Ravnica. Yeah.
But also definitely looked at like every time I get a book, I have to look at like the bestiary and see like what kind of new.
Ravnica's got some pretty funky things in there. Ravnica's definitely something I want to go back to because I think it's a really cool idea because basically it's a big city with a lot of factions in it. And it's something where I feel like it gets a lot of like cool ideas to play around with. So one faction is essentially the cop faction, where it's like the orderly, like, yes, we are here to put order in this massive city plane. So like we did like a buddy cop thing, where one of us was like a like halfling, like rowdy, like loose cannon halfling who was like an inquisitive rogue, and I was doing an order cleric to be sort of like the straight man, the good cop, bad cop, and we're about to like take down this goblin operation, and I was order domain, and order domain has a really fun channel divinity where as an action you can present your holy symbol, and each creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet of you must succeed a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you until the end of your next turn, or until that creature takes any damage. You can also cause any of the charmed creatures to drop what they're holding when they fail the saving throw. So we buzz down the door and go like, freeze, police, as I pull up the badge and then do the channel divinity.
As you should.
And that's the one thing I will ever do as a cop. Because I've done it. I peaked and I did the only thing that's worth it.
I can just imagine you doing it kind of like the movie The Other Guys.
Yeah. But no, Ravnica is definitely a cool setting, and I'd like to maybe do like maybe anthology or like smaller campaigns set in there because it's a really cool setting. And
that's the one with the Chaos Circus, right?
yes, it is the Chaos Circus. The Chaos Circus is in there. Like,
Okay.
yeah, you got Cop Faction, you've got, like, Chaos Circus, you've got Anarchists in the desert, or, like, sort of just out in the like, in the national park, essentially. You got sewer druids, you've got, like, secret, like, shadow organizations, you've got Capitalism Church, you've got Crusaders. Excuse me. You've got scientists funded by a dragon
Oh,
who can.
the sciences.
Mind you, the dragon there is wild because he can concentrate on 2 spells at once.
Very powerful.
Very powerful. There's also sea biologists.
Oh, just like, what was it, Jotaro from JoJo's?
Just like Jotaro from JoJo's. And also just like hippies. There's also just like the one place like, and if you want to have a ranger, we have place for ranger. Look at that. We got the conclave and everything. It's got the
A conclave.
It's got the druid subclass name. You all remember it, yes? Yes, you do. That's great. We love that. But no, it's a fun setting, and I would love to do like, cause I know like, I've noticed like one reason I don't do Witchlight right now, or at least having a hiatus with it, is. Mm-hmm. I realize I don't really like a lot of the D&D modules, like how they're written. Like, I just don't like the direction that they go to. Like, I've even tried playing Curse of Strahd, and I think it's like, I love the vibe of Curse of Strahd. I think Curse of Strahd, on paper, and the tools they give you, very great. But when playing it, it's very much a game that's more driven by the NPCs than the player.
I'm currently in a Curse of Strahd game, but I had also like read through it a couple times.
Mm.
It's definitely interesting, though. The group I'm in are definitely leaning a little bit more murder hobo, so things in Curse of Strahd.
Yeah, like if you're following the plot of Curse of Strahd, like going with Irina or Lesser.
We didn't. No, we got kicked out of that town.
Okay, cool. Then you probably were going. Then you probably did your own thing. But when I was playing, I was like, I don't know if I really like the vibe here, because again, I feel like it's not so much about our actions. It's more like, all right, we gotta do something with Irina, so we have to do this guy's quest, and that means we have to do what he wants to do, because otherwise Strahd's gonna do something, and it's a lot less player agency. And it's like a thing. It's like I don't know if it was just how I experienced it, or just the game itself, but it was like a thing was like, I see the potential in this game. I know why people love it. And Wild Beyond the Witchlight is a game where it's pretty solid for most of it, but then it seems to have like this secret third act like villain group, not just one villain, like a group that like seems really out there even when you first see it. It's like, what are these 2 factions doing here? It's very clearly you have 3 big bads and then like a final area. Why would you need to have another group here? And also just the direction that it's going is like, I don't really like it. And so like I really have to either change it drastically to make it work, and that's not what I want out of a module. Like, I think the only module I've had like decently satisfied with is really Dungeon of the Mad Mage, because it's just a fucking mega dungeon.
Very fair.
And it's like, there's no real plot here. It's just you go through this and see what happens. But even then, it has like things like, and here on the 3rd floor, we will have a series of empty rooms. We will not tell you anything about it. They are just here. If you want to do anything about it, I guess you have to make your own lore, you little silly dear bitch. So, yeah.
Fun thing of that is like going off the rails and just doing whatever you want, because you have whatever power you want, but they like pretty much just hand you the reins like, we're throwing everything in here. If something comes in here that you want to throw in, by all means, I've got as much sense as anything else in here.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a game where I really like the idea of it, and also, I think when I'm playing when I play, because I've done another Feywild campaign I tried doing my own, and I really think a way how I would do another Fey game is make it more the Fey are going to the Prime material, because that makes it way more interesting. Because it adds like a mystery to the Fey and everything, and makes them seem a lot more powerful and interesting, as opposed to, well, we're in their world now, and yeah, it's weird, but like, I don't know, it doesn't feel as weird, because another thing that really made me not feel as great about Wild Beyond the Witchlight is travel. Essentially gave you 8 options, but also the maps are really big and really vague, because they really only prepared stuff for roleplay and character, which is really good, but don't really prepare it all for combats or travel. Like, they have some ideas, but also they make the map really big and really hard to tell, like, well, okay, but how much events should I happen? Like, should I enable happen as they're traveling? Like, give me a mile marker, but is that relevant? Do I need... And it's like, I feel like I have to pull things out of my ass, and I'm like, oh, I just do that, instead of like, this is a module. I bought this so I don't have to think about what I'm running. If I wanted to do this, I'd make my own game.
Right.
I'd buy a setting book, And also with modules, I find it's like, I don't know, I've been running a home game recently over the last few months, and I've noticed a lot more motivation on that than I have with the module game. Because it's like, it's my world, I want things to happen, I have goals I want to specifically happen, I can make that happen.
My first time DMing was like me making my whole entire world, like from all different continents that they only interacted with just one, like all the different like islands, for events that were going to be going on at the world at the same time, that if they decided to just abandon this continent, they'd have something ready for them when they got to the next one.
Yeah, like I know with my current game, I know the last game I did in the setting was the pirate campaign, and I realized I made the sandbox way too big, because I made like an entire sea, like I made a world map, so it's like, alright, that's really overwhelming. And I realized, especially when I was in the Plague Arc, it's like, nope, not a good idea. This is too much. I've narrowed it down, like, here's the continent. Here's the continent you're on, and here's the main places, and I'll give you Deus Ex Machina to encourage the plot to go forward, to give you direction for your railroads, and just see, like, if you do the plot related to it, the certain actions will happen sooner. If you don't want to do it, you'll just be hunted down, because all of you apparently wanted to be hunted down according to your backstories.
Well then.
No, like, really the thing of the Yakuza game is people with very bad relationships and running away from them. Like, 2 of the characters are drow siblings that were raised in, like, a rare area of the Underdark that's very, like, traditionalist drow. So, like, the older one's a guy, and he was, like, originally, like, had to pretend to be a girl to be, like, the heir. But then his sister was born, so he's basically just shoved to the side and essentially sold off to be, like, a Dao's, like, husband or something for, like, money for the family. So, like, yeah, so he's very much, like, he's enjoying life and everything, but he's more like that person, like, and if I keep on having fun and not think about my trauma, I'm all good. Meanwhile, his sister, being the heir, was like, alright, you're going to the academy and learning the way how to be a soldier and basically become a blood hunter, and never being good enough and that kind of trauma. And the 2 of them just wanting to be together and actually have, like, a relationship. Meanwhile, on the surface, we have a changeling who's a rogue who works for a mysterious, like, master who essentially... Oh, go ahead.
No, just nodding and
yeah, this, like, mysterious master who has, like, other experiments that were made, and essentially doing like this like Full Metal Alchemist level like big grand scheme, and they're just sort of like caught in the dark of like, this is all for the greater good, and it's now starting to question, but is it? And also getting very punished by this master of going, alright, I'm giving you mercy once. Deals 5d10 cold damage. It's okay, they live.
Kind of love those little moments of, are we the baddies?
Yeah, that's their arc. And then there's a centaur artificer who essentially has a lot of abandonment issues because they're very positive. They're like toxically positive and blindly optimistic, and in heavy denial. Because like essentially, there's a lot of ghost towns because this place is essentially a victim of like a lot of industrialization. Like this place is like there's a lot of resources here, but they get very exploited. So like there's a lot of like say like old milling towns or old like coal mining towns and the like. And you know, she essentially was traveling through with her centaur with a group of nomadic centaurs and like found out about explosives and was really fascinated about that. But that sort of drove people away from her because they didn't want to be that, or if they did want to stick around her, they got homesick from like their other centaur friends. So it's very much a slow, like, people will leave me because something's wrong with me, I guess. And the only person that she had as a friend between then and the party meeting was a person in charge of a small Yakuza group named Buddy, who essentially used her desire for friendship and hospitality as like, yeah, no, you teach us how to use like how to make guns and everything, and we'll have dinner with you, and you'll provide the dinner, of course, because like we're guests. And very obviously manipulative tactics that only she would notice because she doesn't want to see it.
Right. Roasting the glasses and all that.
Yeah, it's even great because in the set I ran session zeros for both groups of one in the Underdark and one above, and Buddy essentially gave her a loan of like 250 gold, and it's like spent a little bit of it, but it's like, whoa, I'm charging so much interest whenever they meet again.
My heart goes out to her.
No, they deal with a lot. They really are just trauma group, and they may have resurrected a Draco Lich, but like that's not as important.
Potential friends, you know?
Yeah. I think I actually showed you that art that was inspired by the resurrection.
You might have.
I think I have. But yeah, what's so bad about resurrecting an ancient Black Draco Lich? How about
right? It's a black one, you know, as opposed to like some of the other ones.
He's not as bad as like 3 other dragons that became Draco Liches. like it's not good, but it's like, oh, it could be worse.
I don't remember exactly the setting or whatever, but I remember seeing, I think it was originally in Pathfinder, there was a set of magical items that were made from like a Draco Lich that they couldn't like permanently put down, but they divided its like body parts and made like these, like I think one was a throne, another one was like a cape, and like all these other like different things out of it.
I know.
And then,
go ahead.
And then as people like obtained them, the like consciousness of the Draco Lich would start to reform and like convince them to like go get the other items so it could become whole again.
Ooh. I know in the game I played my Necromancer, the original big bad was going to be someone named Mocha, who was the person that the Empire, one of the main empires, was named after, and he was essentially the first Necromancer.
Okay.
And apparently the continent that his empire was made in had a natural undead problem, like ghouls and the skeletons would spawn out. And he first learned necromancy to learn how they work and try to protect people from it. And some of his apprentices got very power hungry and essentially Caesared the man
Oof.
and revived him as a very powerful undead thrall with his massive necrotic energy, and he was essentially at one point severed away, like several body parts removed, and became like powerful relics. And so like early parts of the game became like an arms race to get like these parts. Like I know my necromancer mostly has his eye. Like that became a main thing pretty early on, like around level 5 or so, because I was like the first, huh?
The fact that you just said an arms race to go get the body parts.
Thank you. But yeah, he mostly stuck with the eye because the eye gave him dark vision and see invisibility at will, which is a spell like no one's ever gonna pick that up, but if it's given to you,
Right.
And fun fact, we found out that you can take off the body parts with like a remove curse because they're cursed items. Which is really funny because if someone like we encountered a werewolf archmage, Broderick Longsword, the motherfucker.
Sounds like there's a story there too.
No, there's a long story about Broderick Longsword, and it's great because we bully him so much. And essentially he like when we first met, he's like, oh cool, I like that curse thing, I want it, and like he removed cursed it, and when I got it back at one point, it was a real funny thing where I had to roll like a dice to see like am I gonna, because part of the curse of the eye was that I have to stab one of my eyes out to replace it, and deal like 4d10 necrotic damage, which is big oofy ouchie. But it was like at first like okay cool, but is it gonna be the eye that you already took out? Or luckily I got the eye that I already took out, but it was like, cool, is this gonna happen twice? And yeah, I think the only other part I used was like the skull, which essentially let me use like some spells for free, like tongues or fear. Maybe speak with dead for like a certain amount of charges, and I think its only real curse was the fact that if I took a natural 1, I'd get like a d6 of psychic damage. But it was very much the things like I'm gonna use this in the final battle because that's cool. To have like a golden skull mask.
Yeah, that's pretty pimpin'.
Yeah. And I think the other body parts, we knew there was the arms, and I think they did necrotic damage when they grasped you. But they also made your hands really stinky because the flesh was raw underneath it, which was like, ew, I wouldn't even take that. I think the boots essentially like made you levitate at will. I don't know, I really saw like a my sort of rival, like my Indiana Jones rival have it for the most part. I think there was a skin shirt, but I don't recall what the skin shirt does. But if you got all of them together, yeah, but if you got all the pieces together, the idea was like, oh, you can get a wish casted, but really it's just Mocha would just possess the body and go feral.
The name Mocha just it conjures up every time that I've gone to have like a sip of a like chocolate milkshake or something like that, and it's coffee flavored. It just summons up all my hatred, and such a good name for a villain.
See, it's always fun to learn how DMs use like their naming schemes, because you essentially use a lot of like Polish Google Translate to make things sound fantasy-like, which works honestly, because no one hears Polish. Mocha's a cute name. I always like name my Pokemon Mocha. Aw, that's cute. I'm glad.
Melody likes coffee.
I'm glad the original Necromancer is a very cute name.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for me, with the setting I'm working with right now, the players really wanted to have like a Russian angle for like their Drow siblings. So it's like, okay, the Underdark has a lot of Drow influence because because elves are just invasive and horrible. That's like, all right, it's gonna be a lot more like Slavic name schemes of like it's either gonna be Russian for a lot of places, maybe influenced by Drow and Genasi, and Minotaurs, which are a prominent race in the setting. I've used more Romanian.
Okay.
So like Minotaurs in this setting have like a lot of the like the main wizard college of the country, like Wizard Harvard, right? And the place is called the Avada Academy, which is just me translating learning in Romanian and being like, that sounds cool. Just gonna
right.
click, 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 click. And Dwarvish is not Scottish in my brain, it's German, because German's a very structured and it's very structured, very organized language, like I think the dwarves would have.
Respectful. I did a one-shot that had a bunch of dwarves in a silver mine.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a bunch of like, kind of stereotypical ones like that, but like all the players had a different form of lycanthropy to them. And so they were working like to take down the silver production and all that.
Well, cool. I'm sorry. When you finish the story, now I'm going to talk about the werewolf archmage and that story because you mentioned a silver mine.
By all means.
All right.
But one of the dwarves that was the guard, I don't know why I decided to. I made his voice the Swedish Chef. I think he was the only one that survived for obvious reasons.
You get to survive. But yeah. So now I'm gonna tell you about the story about the Longshores. So the story starts. Alright, so we're gonna have a pre-ramble and then we're gonna have the proper story itself. So you may be wondering how we got to a situation where we fought a werewolf archmage and his were-tiger wife.
I didn't even know there was a were-tiger wife.
There's a were-tiger wife. That's also there. So, we essentially got into a massive side quest because, well, we got into an underground fighting pit, we won a manticore, who named himself Ricky after his previous owner. Ricky would later on become one of our best friends and most valuable NPCs. The original owner of Ricky, offered us a chance to have the same chance to get a fortune like he did. And he got out the deck of many things.
Oh boy.
And our dwarven artificer, who recently bought and discovered drugs, like recent drugs, was like impulsive, like, dude, I'll pull a card, and immediately got dungeon. So it led to like a quick race of like this other group of NPCs who like won, throwing a bunch of cards, and some of us trying to roll cards too, and just a horrible mess of tragedy. One of this NPC group, which is named the Marooned Five, by the way, just got like one of the party members' souls got like thrown away to another like other side of the map. One of them got like a loyal servant, but like it was like a lot of fucked up like series of wild events, and we're like, okay, we need to stop drawing cards because Jesus Christ, this is horrifying. And so we had to go on a side quest to get like a wish from a genie that lived somewhere. So we go through that, and the genie's like, hey, I'm gonna need you to take care of this. After we fought him, he was like, all right, cool, you guys are cool. I'm gonna ask you for one thing before I give you wishes. I only give 3 out a year. I'm gonna need to take care of a little dragonborn problem. He's been kind of a dick to me. And we're like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And we go to this cave that he teleports us to. And, well, it's not quite a dragonborn, it's a dragon hydra hybrid that we have to take care of. So like we fight it, we try to follow it underwater after it swims away at some point, and one of us finds this little cave that has these lizard people torturing this guy who doesn't seem to be dying despite the fact he's like continuously being stabbed. And I think it was our barbarian or something gets him out and goes up to the surface where he sort of shows himself turned to like a tiger-like figure. So this man's a were-tiger, which is fucking rad. and you know, we cave in the Hydra through like a massive bomb to like make him suffocate and die. You know, clever tricks like that. We get him out, and this man is named Julius Longshore, and he's been in there for like a year. And Julius is kind of weird. He's the type of guy who like looks at you like a predator, and when you're casually watching, going out for walks, he's like, "Hey, what's your darkest secret?" You know, fun things like yeah, fun things like that. You know, nothing's as fun like sharing secrets, like a bestie.
One that's gonna give your character a panic attack, but you're gonna be laughing under the table.
Oh yeah. None of us enable that shit, but it's like he's like, "Hey, you guys, like, yeah, I've got some rich parents. Come with me, and I can reward you for saving me." And we have this like cool encounter where like we're level 6 now, or like level 6. No, we're level 7 at this point. So like we get this cool combat of like this massive group of bandits showing up to like ambush us and attack us. And the sort of distraction is like this young boy sort of being like the lure before like these 40 bandits jump at us and we have this cool combat. But Julius starts it with, "Here's my secret. I love the feeling of killing a man," as he just stabs the boy.
Oh.
Killing him instantly. And it's like one of those ones like, God, that's so cool, but like, Jesus Christ. So, after that we learn, maybe Julius, maybe he's not such a good guy. And we enter this town called Agnisko. And Agnisko is a pretty interesting town because it seems to have a wolf problem, and it has a silver mine. And we meet, later that day, we meet the Longshore parents, Broderick Longshore, and Gwendolyn Longshore. Gwendolyn Longshore is the were-tiger, and Broderick Longshore is a very accomplished archmage, who will continuously mock my wizard for being almost half the wizard he is. And, you know, things like that. There's a point where after the first meeting's done, they offer us light camp with me, and we're like, no thanks. Half of us go out reasonably. Me and the barbarian jump out a window. You know how it is. And we learn that they have the silver mine and only have money paid in silver so that they can use that economy to store all the silver so it can't be used against them. And use it to also ship out for, like, the capital to basically give the silver supply for, like, that kind of money. So essentially monopolizing their weakness. Yeah. And we sort of find this, like, underground group that's, like, willing to do a coup, and, like, try to smuggle, like, things to get, like, silver weapons and everything. We even call in favors from, like, a few NPCs that are called the Silver Slayers, because they use silver weapons and everything. And they're really cool. They're a really cool duo of, like, a gnome and, like, half-orc. I think the gnome's a paladin, like, the half-orc was, like, an arcana cleric or something. It's really cool. And, like, we call in that favor, and we go in. First round, we do pretty decently. We fight pretty well till Broderick is done with this shit. Like, he sees, like, oh fuck, I'm in the danger zone. And he just goes, stop, as he casts time stop.
Oh.
After we're close to getting him. And he rushes over in the time stop to burn his research, cast delayed fireball, so, like, as time stop is happening, the fireball will build up, and teleport him and his wife out of there. Time resumes, big explosion happens, we make it out, not well, but we make it. We take, I think, a short rest, as we see Julius is still there, and, because he abandons his son, because he doesn't give a shit about Julius. And we take the opportunity to kill Julius, because he's an opportunist, he doesn't like his dad, but he seems to like his mom, but also he's a cold bastard who will take any chance that he gets. So we don't want to deal with that. So, yeah, we take him out. Everything's great. We go into like his like underground of the mansion to investigate like his laboratory because we don't know if he's there or not. We don't know anywhere where he is. Thank you for the hydrate, Hell Knight.
Join you in on that as well.
So we investigate the area. We find out that he's a transmutation wizard who tries to essentially create an ultimate life form. He's got like a lot of weird things like dragon scales or like mind flare tentacles and everything, like weird shit. Blueprints of how to make like this weird ultimate life form. And we get some things like we find some haste potions. We find like components for like spells and everything. But going in, our barbarian and artificer take some more drugs, which essentially is like a hero's feast. Just snort that. Our barbarian takes the potion of haste, and we fight essentially short-rested Broderick Longshore, Gwendolyn Longshore, and a flesh golem. We, with the skin of our teeth, are able to kill both of them. Fun fact, I killed Broderick Longshore with the hand of his dead wife. Real power move, especially for a wizard who's only half the level he is. At that point. Pretty cool, except the bastards. They have a clone spell underneath an acid pit, and they teleport on out of there after he gets another copy of a spell book. So we're like, fuck. And he's interested in this arms race. And at this point, we also get involved to like the main plot of finding out he's working with like the Hag Illuminati.
The Hag Illuminati.
Yeah, like these this coven of 3 hags who have all ruled over this continent for like since the beginning of time, have like monopolized dragons under them and everything, and have been like secretly manipulating everything to get to where things are now. It was really cool, I swear. So yeah, like they do shit like specifically try to tear like families apart and, you know, do elf genocide. Fun things like that by giving them a disease that just ages them, like just rapidly age them so they can't be revived through most like most resurrections. That's cool. But yeah, so we learn all this and like, oh fuck, okay, we need to get rid of these guys like now. Like we have to find ways to take, like, where are they, how to take care of them. And we go throughout some of our adventures, and when we fight one of the first hags, Broderick and Gwendolyn are before that. So we go to this like not Las Vegas city to sort of go to the training arc, because there's this cool city that essentially is able to summon dungeons here and out from like multiple planes. Like in the desert, there will just be like a pyramid, and like, well, here's the mummy dungeon we've recently found. If you want to go in there, go ahead, just pay a fee and you just go in there and do whatever the hell you want. But by like Tuesday, it's gonna be like, I don't know, a dungeon filled with gorillas. I don't know. So we do that. We get resources, and we have the Indiana Jones rival with us, from my wizard, and we go into this like gambling boat to sort of like celebrate. This gambling boat starts going into like this big body of water, which it's not supposed to, and it turns out it's an ambush by Broderick Longshore. Has been disguising himself as my rival, who I've been learning to like somewhat appreciate. Nope. It's just a rat bastard. And like, so he traps, like, he puts into a situation of like, me and the barbarian are fighting against the were-tiger, whereas the monk and artificer are fighting Broderick. We get together and we realize, shit, these are simulacrums. These aren't even the real deal. This isn't even Broderick. It's Brian Longshore, and he doesn't even fucking care. He's just fucking around with us. But Brian gets away. He gets killed off screen by like a side thing with the DM's roommates and everything. But Brian does compliment us by all calling us hot, while having half of us charmed, and trying to finish him off. So that's neat. And you know, once we get to our first hag fight, essentially Broderick and Gwendolyn are invited to just watch, as we surprisingly just murk the first hag within like within a turn, which is real lucky and a really cool power move because our artificer got a really cool gun that basically did like a like the fucking McCree ult of like if you were high enough in initiative, you could just fire all the bullets from your gun immediately.
Fan the hammer.
Yeah, this was like 6 attacks, taking out half her health. Barbarian coming in, and I got out a level 9 scroll that I got from the Las Vegas journey, which was Psychic Scream. And could I have killed Broderick and Gwendolyn Longshore even if they were invisible? I could have, but I forgot about it, and that's way cooler to have them be another final fight. So we take care of them, and that's cool. We go on, do our thing, and at one point when we go back to our home in Agnieszko, because by the way, we live in the town that we conquered, that we like did the coup from, and we get like an estate there.
Yes, you do.
And Julius is alive. He was cloned and made essentially into an experiment. So he essentially could do like weird things like sacrifice reactions or like his own. I think he could sacrifice his action economy to either do like more attacks in some rounds or like multiple reactions and shit. Like it was wonky but fucking crazy. But he was like, hey, I'm alive and I want to kill my dad and I don't want to be this weird mutant thing anymore. You find him. Like, you help me now. We have a common enemy. And we're like, yeah, cool, Julius. Yeah, cool. Fuck, we don't want to deal with Julius. So we're in a brief Underdark arc to trying to find a way to get the second hag. And we're in this underground, like, sort of ruin of a city. And we find, like, the remains of, like, a ancient weapon called the Moonblade. Like, half of it. And like, while we're discovering it, he just shows up and goes like, yes, no, it is a rare thing. We're like, oh, fuck! As we try to attack him, it's a mislead. He's on the other side of the map. And we have another combat with him. And I believe his wife's also there. We kill his wife. For real. We kill Gwendolyn Longshore. And there's no more clones. There's not enough time to have clone be set up. So she's just dead. And he gets really aggressive after that. Essentially, how it ends up, he true polymorphs our artificer to a boot. So he could capture the boot and teleport away to go back to his home base. And so we are essentially put into a hostage negotiation moment. After we have a brief aside to like the home base where like our artificer goes in a little journey after he's unbooted. Because I think if you're an item, it only lasts for like an hour. He briefly gets mind blanked or something. The spell that like reduces your mental stats to like 1. Before like he gets greater restored by like his dad, which was like a big moment for him. And so like he had to do a thing where he had to play dumb and like we had to just hostage negotiation as we do like this final fight with him now because like he's got nothing to lose. And we fight him and he has this necklace that he just worked on. And it essentially is his way to get his, like, mythic action second form, where it just becomes this arcane like crystal creature, that's just filled with pure magical energy. We fight him, and how he decides to go out is finishing it off a meteor swarm.
Oh, snap.
And the only reason my wizard survived, like, we all made it out, but the only reason my wizard did was contingency is a very good spell. Anyone who doesn't know, contingency is a spell that can make you have a spell that's lower level and just have it as a just in case this happens, this spell will act on me. And negative energy flood for living targets does 12d5, 5d12 necrotic damage, and if it kills you, turn to a zombie. However, if you're undead, like a certain vampire necromancer, you get that as temporary hit points.
Fair.
So, like, when I'm at half hit points, like, nope, I would like 5d12 hit points, please. I don't want to die. And we make it out, and we find, like, Broderick's journal, and we read about his life story. We found out that his wife never loved him. Which we found, like, as a thing is like, oh, for him must be so sad. But for us who have just flanderized this man as, like, oh, this ambitious, like, this wizard who just shits on us, like, oh no, his wife didn't even fucking love him. Oh, boo-hoo. He became a werewolf because, basically Gwendolyn was, like, a pure were-tiger. Like, she had a long lineage of, like, the were-tiger. So it was like, well, I could become a werewolf. I could become like a true lycanthrope, I swear. And like literally the only reason why Gwendolyn stayed with him is because he got her a kid who was a were-tiger. So, you know, fun things like that. And yeah, and we fought Julius. Julius showed up again in the final boss fight, along with a hag that became a shadow dragon, just like you.
Maybe not just like you.
You're right. It was a poison. It was a poison dragon. It was a green shadow dragon. So like, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what your breath is. So.
Hag and all that. Minty fresh, at least.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's complete opposite. You don't have stink breath.
No. If I'm going to, like, breathe some elemental damage on you, I'm going to make sure that I at least come with the moral high ground of having excellent dental care.
I have the high ground. But, yeah, that's the Longshore story.
It's, like I said, D&D is all about creating a story worth retelling, and that is definitely one of them.
No, and I only went into Longshore stuff. I didn't even go to, like, the thing of, like, the main thing that, like, when we first did, like, the coup and got Broderick out of, like, the city we saved, the main thing that got us together is, like, not just, like, hey, we're friends traveling around to, like, get to goals that we have in common, is, like, the moment we really became found family is our Dwarf Artificer's backstory is essentially he likes creating like microbrews and everything. Like he wants to get a brand of like his own beer and alcohol, and he really wanted to impress the king of like his country. So he accidentally spiked the drink.
Accidentally.
Yeah, no, legit. He thought he was gonna add something. Like he essentially did the Coca-Cola thing.
Oh no, okay.
Yeah, but I don't think he realized, like, he thought it would just be like, oh, this would, like, give it a taste, and not like, oh god, the king is now comatose. And this looks like a failed assassination attempt. I need to get out. I need to get out to another country and lay the fuck low. And so, like, after we take out the, Broderick, the Witch Illuminati starts moving their plans. and like the king wakes up from his coma, and our dwarf's lawyer shows up, going, "Hey, buddy, we may want to talk." And while suspicions are sort of raising, we did get a scrying orb, which can cast scry like twice a day. So my wizard sort of goes into our monk, who's like more the cynical skeptic, and Yurik's more like, he's a wizard. He's more flamboyant, but he's definitely cautious, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, with him and his and the dwarf's other suspicions of other people, things get a bit fishy, and especially when we're like, hey, I don't know if we want to be so separated right now. What if we just check up on him? No, he was suspicious because of his drug habit recently. Because, yeah, he took drugs and got into, like, you know, the void, and also was using drugs to defeat, like, Broderick Longshore, so he was concerned, like, I don't want him to be, like, trying to find drugs. I want to make sure he's alright. And so he overhears about the backstory, and the talk of, like, oh god, like, we like Srorik, we like our artificer, but, like, is that going to be a good idea to keep him around? Like, can we have that? And our barbarian is like the one who's like, guys, shut the fuck up. He's our friend, mate. Like, we gotta stick together. And like, us just having like a legit like suffering from success moment of like talking about like reputation, what our goals are gonna be and everything. And this is before we learned about the Witch Illuminati. This is before we learned about the Witch Illuminati and how they love tearing, like, found families apart. So, it really is, like, that moment of, like, do we come together as, like, something stronger than just friends? Or do we let it go? And we let it stick, and...
Which is always nice. Like, there's one thing of just like, yeah, we're here to like play a game together. There's no point of us being in a team if we're just gonna like not be working as a team. But then there's also just like the power of friendship, pilot the mech kind of feel.
No, like, callbacks, love it. But no, it really is like deadass. One of the most the most power friendship moment in this campaign was in the final fight when we were fighting the Shadow Dragon. The Shadow Dragon was about to kill our one's power of drugs, because our artificer did take the last one last use of drugs since the Ognisko incident, to be like a big power, get an HP buff to fight the dragon, which was barely enough to save him from a power word kill.
Oof.
But the same artificer also was able to get just got 4th level spells, because we got to level 14, I believe, and he cast Death Ward on our monk, and the last attack of the game, or last 2 attacks, the Shadow Dragon goes in to like breathe a powerful breath weapon when it's like low HP, and our monk would have died. Our monk would have died and became a shadow, because that's what happens when a Shadow Dragon kills you.
I'm aware.
Huh?
So I'm aware.
Okay, cool. And because of Death Ward, she lived, and she was an elf, which, mind you, this witch wanted to just destroy elves. So this elf just punches the shit out of the dragon till it's dead afterwards. And led to like the whole like, how do you all want to do this moment?
Nice.
But like, yeah, no, just like, no, this is the most thematic. Like, yeah, we all do like the like thematic, like, all right, how do you all set up the kill? But it's like, no, our elf monk takes it out. They take it out, save their homeland, everything's great. Man, I love subclasses.
Right. That's definitely just one hell of a way to end the campaign.
Yeah, and that was, again, 2-year campaign, so it was very, like, yeah.
Bittersweet moments.
Yeah. No, I think we got, like, I can send, hey, if you ever want to, I'll invite you, Nock, to see it. But I know our note keeper does have a document of all the notes of the sessions. I think of like 40 plus sessions. If you ever want to see like the summarized journey.
I enjoyed recently talking with one of my players about our campaign that we did at the start of the big COVID. That's I made this weird west, like Eberron meets like high fantasy, like almost steampunk, Wild West kind of thing going on. And I based the town on Deadwood, like the old corral and all that kind of stuff. And like tried to like even got an old map and like remade the town that kind of way. Made like fancy versions of all like the characters and all that kind of stuff. And was just like sitting there talking to her one night, and she got out her notes, and I was also looking at my stuff that I had on the Discord, and we were just like reliving the moments and stuff.
I did drink Hell Night. I drank immediately when I saw the hype tray. But no, like hell, I'll get that out and just send it to you whenever you want to see it, because it's a treat. Because like, it's a good mix of like legit recaps and also just like, hey, this was a quote said.
Right, those little special parts of the notes where they focused in on it. It's like, I gotta remember this.
Like, I think like one of them is like, Yorick, my necromancer, explains what an anglerfish is. Because, man, my necromancer Yorick also had like a oh yeah, it's also 75 pages, by the way, so have fun. But like, he had his initial like, because how I like making characters is I don't like giving them like a long backstory per se. I like giving them a goal. I don't. The past is more like a setup. It's not like everything, right? Like for him, it was like, yeah, my boy was interested about how could one bring back the dead. Got interested. Start off with grave robbing to do basic research. Met someone who was like Jasmine Aladdin, like, I don't want to just be nobility, I want to like explore and adventure. And then like that's how he got his connections to like actually get like to wizard college and everything. And then like went to a place where necromancy's more kosher. And like he wants to make a sentient undead that has both body and soul. And also there's like one of his like wizard friends that got into an incident to like the plane of water and maybe anywhere between these three bodies of water. And guess what plotline never got
Some say he's still floating out there.
Like you essentially Yorick saw her die supposedly in like one of the first hags, and it's like, ah shit, I guess I can't do anything about that for once, because my boy's got some real bad like survivor's guilt.
Fun to pepper that in with different characters every now and then.
Like,
it's better abandonment
mind
issues.
you, I talk about a barbarian. The barbarian used to be a tiefling warlock. As a different character. No, as a different character. Like the player changed characters. Because essentially he was a tiefling, and tieflings were like, not like there are people. It's more like, no, they're a result of a curse.
Interesting take.
So, like, essentially, elves try to revolt against their archfey, and the archfey's like, fine. Hey, Satan, do this something real petty. And it's like, no worry, boss, I got this. They've forsaken you? Don't worry. You can hand them over to me. And Uh, and basically, because of that, like, the archdevil that's, like, over that, it's like, hey, I've got dominion over your soul. I want people to hunt down and, like, get these guys, right? And we have essentially a combat against, like, one of these, like, collectors to sort of recruit the tiefling, and he banishes half the party. He's looking real rough. I'm casting magic missiles left and right to whittle down his HP, and he looks so easy to kill. Like, honestly, the two of us could handle it. But my boy, my young man who just wanted to adventure and see the world, tried to spare us by going to hell, and only my wizard sees this. It's like, no, we could have stopped this. This didn't have to happen. And it's okay, he will only outlive everyone in the end because he's immortal now. Thank you for the hydrate.
More and more survivor skills.
Whoop whoop. But that's okay, that's super long term because he's friends with like dwarves and elves, man.
In the grand scheme of things, maybe, but for the time being,
It's
you're
okay.
in control of.
Dude, him and the elf can live in their in their house, like in the country. It's like, nah, this is our house for like the last 700 years, and you can't do anything about it. But yeah, is there? It's getting a bit late. Is there any last stories or anything you want to talk about in particular? Because I've noticed I've really just happened to take this opportunity to go like, Nocti, I love you being here. I love that we came and do something very specific. I'm gonna grasp all of you by the throat and tell you a lot about my big D&D campaign that I was in. And this is not a suggestion.
There was a allotted amount of time for getting off track, and we have had a great time listening to this. And like, I've had opportunities to talk about it, but the whole subclass thing was kind of a icebreaker starting point.
Yeah.
It's D&D. You're going to branch out to other topics. You're going to talk about Santa Claus.
You're gonna have to talk about the Santa Claus movies. You're gonna have to. It's actually in the contract. It's in the Santa Claus. That's a joke for any Santa Claus fans.
So, when it comes to either Tasha's or Xanathar's, which of those two do you think had the stronger subclasses introduced?
Now what do you mean by stronger? Do you mean like mechanically, or do you mean like flavor?
Whatever you want to determine that as being. In your own, like, opinion, which ones did you find a more calling to? We'll see.
More calling to. I think overall Xanathar's, like, Tasha's is some really good stuff, but I feel like you gotta also understand what role, like, the order to, because, like, you know, and when I started playing D&D, it's probably when Xanathar's came out as well. So, like, that's also the first time newer content is added. And it's sort of that book that really gives some classes that were sort of given the Cold Shoulder more opportunity to be, like, something, you know? Like, Bard suddenly opens up so much. Suddenly, like, you know, Druid has a chance, and, like, Monks got some cool options. Sorcerers and Warlocks start getting to be a bit more complete and everything. And Wizard only gets one subclass, as it should, after the 8, you know? Like, things like that.
There, some subclasses or classes originally in the player's handbook only had, like, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Others had, like, a whole plethora of them.
So, I always feel it, like, Tasha's has some really cool ones, but it also has, like, some where I'm like, like, did we need Twilight Domain? Do we need the College of Eloquence?
Certainly for someone, otherwise it wouldn't have been made. However, there was definitely a call for me as well, personally, toward those that were interested in Xanathars.
See,
whether it be just the flavor or the amount of them, I give it to that.
Yeah, but Tasha's the best canonical D&D character in my opinion, and I'm glad that, like, I got to learn about Tasha, because, like, when I first I was like, oh my god, it's the laughing spell person, it's...
Right.
And she's like the daughter of the Baba Yaga, which is really cool. Where's the picture? She absolutely demolishes Mordenkainen, the fucking dork. Me and the homies shit on Mordenkainen and his baby level 7 sword. That's like not even worth it. He gets absolutely demolished by Tasha, absolute girl boss. Meanwhile, this bald guy gets like 2 books, and some of it ruins some spellcasters anyway to make it more streamlined. So like, frick my boy Mordenkainen. Where is it? Also, Tasha fucks Grits, the demon lord of sexy. So like, my guy.
You're not wrong. There's no lie here, but.
But what? What are you gonna tell me I'm not?
Something about just the wording of just simply leaving it at sexy and not just like sexy doesn't seem to really grasp it, but
oh, okay. Being too sexy for his shirt, too sexy for himself.
This is a better in the direction, so we'll call it.
This direction over. Also, I don't like how wizards keep on spoiling Tasha's true name, because 1, I think it's kind of a silly name even for Witch, and 2, it's like, man, let her true name be a secret. See, another Tasha and Grits about to have a nice little momente.
The like special artwork on some of these books is like really worth like trying to hunt them down.
Oh yeah. Like Tasha just big chilling next to her Baba Yaga hut. Like, yeah, Tasha, best D&D character canonically, and like definitely the one where it's like, if I ever wanted to bring a D&D character that was like named, I would bring Tasha into a campaign, because Tasha's cool and has like things to go off of, and is like essentially the witch queen.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a lot of stuff you can do with there, because I think another key difference is like with devils, right? Those are more like people trying to do like Faustian deals for like profit. Fae and things along those lines, I feel like are just playing with you. Like it's a game to them. And they just want to see the most fun result in what they think is fun. And I think that's a fun thing to sort of consider, like what's fun for them and what do they think will result in the most of it. Rather if that fun is something that's comedy or misery.
Something that surprises them.
Yeah, like I know, because again, it was Hag Illuminati game. That meant there was like some cool things, like whenever we visited a hag, we had to give them gifts of some sort. Like, rather if it was a magical item or something that was like personal to us, like something small, or even if it was something abstract, right? And what our second hag that we dealt with did essentially played a game where we all had to participate in it. And it was essentially one of you gets to ask someone here to either give something, take something, or I believe the third option was be given something. So either you bestow to them, you steal it, or you give something to them.
Very interesting pink elephant Christmas.
And yeah, it's essentially that. And if you refuse whatever offer someone gives you of your choice, you pick again, but you can't back out of it. So, like, say if you go, I would like to get something. Okay, cool. I will give you. What I want to give you is I want to give you 2 left feet, and you're a dancer by trade, and you're like, I would like to take something. It's like, cool. I will take. Cool. Take this. Gives you a cursed item. You know, like it's supposed to be a built-in lose-lose situation.
Right. Which still, pick your poison.
Yeah, it is a pick your poison. But yeah, like things like that I really like, because like it's more the thing of like, no, I like seeing these chuckle fricks getting messed with.
Which of the classes do you think is due for the next like round of subclasses?
Could you elaborate on that question?
Like, in some campaigns and all that, there'll be like some new character options where it's just like specifically for 1 or 2 things. Like in was it Tomb of Annihilation, they had like a couple of new backgrounds you could choose from.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I think one of the Tiamat focused ones had like a background focused on like dragon cults and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that at least one of the campaign books introduced like 1 or 2 new like subclasses to choose from based on whatever. Maybe it was elemental evil or something like that. But regardless.
Man, imagine remembering elemental evil for anything but Genasi.
Right. But if we get like a new book sometime soon that has just like 1 or 2 of the classes gets a subclass.
Right. Well, I'm gonna give a predictive thing what I think is generally gonna be the next books based off the UA. I think there's definitely gonna be something giant based.
Okay.
Because they're putting a lot of emphasis on giant stuff again, and I know Storm King's Thunder, although a giant based book, is something that they were like, people were mixed with. But I also think they're probably gonna go for a Planescape thing, like very high fantasy thing again, after Spelljammer. So I would honestly like, because I think the 2 classes that I don't think need more attention per se, but I feel like need to be wrapped up, if that makes sense, is Sorcerer and Warlock. Because for Sorcerer, I feel like you get a lot of the general flavors. Like, you got Psychic now with Amber in mind, Dragon, God, anything necrotic. There's a lot of the elementals even with UA stuff, so I'll count that with elementals.
The different planes and whatnot.
Yeah, like Wild and Chaos, but I feel like we need a specific like Fiend and like Fae types of sorcery. Because like, I really do feel like that Fae Soul is kind of something that's like, it feels like it's just right there, but no one's taken it. And I feel like it's a cool flavor to work with, especially how much they've tried to give Fae some attention recently. I'll take a stretch. But,
because the closest one right now that we'd have to that would be arguably Wild Magic.
Arguably, but I think Wild Magic is more chaos. Specifically, and they really highlight that with having Clockwork Soul recently. So I feel like then it sort of loses the idea of it could possibly Fae. And I feel like Fae, you also have like a more specific idea of having that be more nature themed. Like that could be sort of your druid-esque sorcerer, because you have like your cleric like sorcerer too, or your psionic sorcerer. So it sort of just rounds out things, and I feel like with the Fiend one, it would really balance out like sort of the parallel of like Divine Soul, and Shadow Magic feels a lot more necromantic in nature, or a lot more just darker emotions, as opposed to like, you know, if I wanted to have someone with the powers of hell, or like I wanted to be a half demon, sort of thing. Like, I want to be this edgy character, right?
Right.
I want to have the powers of hell, you know? You gotta get that from there, man, you know?
There is like the evil alignment options for the Divine Soul that kind of touches into that, I think. You go into like more of the demonic spectrum, but as opposed to like a proper like fire and brimstone kind of hell. Kind of like Spawn, if you will.
Well, see, the thing is, it doesn't have to be hell necessarily. It could be also the Abyss, like something that could fit generally Fiend-esque.
Gehenna and all those fun other planar groups.
Hey, shout out to my favorite plane, Hades, where all the soul worms go. Everyone remembers Hades. It's true evil alignment.
Keeps coming back to worms today.
Okay, well, to be fair, they're more larvae because they do have legs. And the only lore we have about it is like, well, sometimes souls go there, and night hags go there to collect them.
True.
But yeah, I would like that. If they bring back giant soul, that would be cool.
It would.
But yeah, and with Warlock, I feel we need a Dragon Warlock.
I won't argue with you that.
We need it. Need a D&D. Why didn't you give it to us in Fizzban? That would have been the perfect place to do it. But it's okay. I will wait. I will wait violently. And I think with the Genie, I think it did, because I know I wanted an Elemental also, because I feel like that was lacking. But I think at this point we really just need Dragon. Like, a Dragon Warlock. Maybe a Giant Warlock if we want to go more towards a Giant route. Just to fill space, but like, I really just want dragons. Can we please get a Dragon Warlock?
Doing some kind of maybe rune stones or something with the Warlock in that route with the Giants. Yeah,
but the Giant one, you could also make that like Hexblade but better as a martial, cause man, Hexblade really is monopolizing the idea of like, well, I want to do a physical Warlock. And it's like, yeah, okay, you could do that with a lot of other ones, but like, I guess you want the benefits that Hexblade's like, but this is the only way you could do it. It rules is written actually, and it's actually good. I promise. And it's not something I'm just bribed by for the first level. Not at all.
The important thing is, no matter what subclasses you choose, you find something that works for you and that you enjoy playing.
Yes. So that means don't pick. That means you're likely not going to pick. Hey, Noct.
Huh?
So you remember what classes do you remember being in Sword Coast?
In Sword Coast?
Yeah.
I think I was looking at the like dwarven like battle armor one for a little bit,
I see. You know exactly what I'm going to right now.
I don't know if it's because you were at the barbarian that I jumped to that idea.
No. Hello everyone. Once again, I'm talking shit about the Battle Rager. If you look at the Battle Rager, first off, even the dwarves think this is a dumb subclass because there's axe idiot being its meaning. So yes, this is supposed to be dwarf only, which I'm glad they never did again. With race exclusive classes. But then they go up. This isn't just race exclusive. This gives you exclusive armor. That's right. You get spiked armor. When you're wearing it, oh, what's this? You can use a melee bonus action to do D4 of spiky damage. Be careful, if you haven't been grappled, they just take 3 damage. I'm gonna stretch the wrists as I do this. Because like, okay, that's pretty neat, I guess. Why can't anyone else just get the armor and that be an effect of the armor? Well, because the dwarves are doing it, and that is cool, and also they are barbarians. But when you reckless abandon, you can get temporary hit points, which would be really cool as an ability for like any barbarian class that doesn't have to be this. And they're like, okay, understandable why you would say that. Hear me out. Battle Charger, 10th level. You can take the dash action as get this bonus action while raging. And I go, very good, Barbarian. Congratulations, you've already gave me that with the Totem Barbarian. And I can get that at level 3. I can get that level 3 if I don't want bear resistance. And they go, okay, so you're a tough customer. Don't worry. We'll wrap it back up to the spike armor. Remember the spike armor that you got for this specific class? Don't worry. You get spiked retribution. You're at level 14, so like this is going to be really big. When a creature that is 5 feet from you hits with a melee attack, the attacker takes 3 points of piercing damage if you're raging and aren't incapacitated and wearing the spike armor. And let's also ignore the fact that we're level 14 and magic items also exist and maybe better things for your player. But like, yeah.
It was definitely interesting idea, having like armor as a weapon. But could have definitely been worked on a little bit better.
I just think that should just be the spike armor and make it a like pseudo magical item, you know? Like treat it as a magical item even if it isn't magical, you know? Because like even when you look at this class, they only were like, all right, we're gonna initially give you spike ability and we'll wait till like 11 levels later till you do that. Because like the Reckless Abandon would be really good for like a Zealot Barbarian or any Barbarian really that doesn't have to do with spike armor.
I'm now imagining the Battle Rage armor, but on a monk and flavoring it as Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes! God, I'm thinking so much about the video of Shredder thinking he's Michelangelo.
I'm not familiar with that one whatsoever.
It's first off, it's Shredder genuine believing he's just Michelangelo, and he's like doing like, "What's up, bros? My name is Michelangelo, and I'm here to protect the sewers and eat a bongo amount of pizza."
I'm going to go look this up before I go.
And he does like a little jaunt that I can't stop thinking about. Here, I'll see if I can find it so we can all see it together as a people.
The only thing I know for sure is I was introduced to the opener of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle anime recently.
Oh.
And there was a lot of tropes.
Oh. Okay.
It was very interesting.
So I'm just gonna pull up on stream.
Grammarly adds confidence.
I don't care about Grammarly. Stop calling me out on how I don't spell good.
I brought back.
Alright, so it's ready.
I brought back some takeout. So like, let's get down and pick it.
There it is!
It's Shredder.
There's the little giant.
Yo, let's scarf some pizzas, compadres. Just where do you think
It
you're
makes me
going,
think of that
Tingren?
one
Mellow
like, video,
out,
just like
dude.
who's
This
there?
is
It's
my
like a
bed.
skeleton and just kind
I
of
live
like walking into the
here.
room.
Well, not
This is
for
the little
long.
jaunt that kills me.
Yes, Sensei?
Kneel down, please. Who are you? How did you find this place, and what is your mission?
I am Michelangelo. This is my home. My mission is to serve the cool forces of good,
The cool.
to obey my totally hip master Splinter, and whenever possible,
Have
to
people
consume
see
Mondo portions of pizza.
Mondo portions of
He
pizza.
thinks he's Michelangelo.
As Michelangelo, he seems to know nothing about Shredder. I must speak to Shredder himself. When you hear the name Shredder, you will become your former insidious self. Shredder, Shredder, Shredder.
Oh no, he's evil now.
Splinter, my sworn enemy. How did I get here? Let me go, or I'll shell you like walnuts.
Yep, he's his former insidious self, all right.
And he hates walnuts.
Stupid turtles won't get anything out of me. I'll never talk.
It's no use. I have to change him back.
I have to Michelangelo
Say the name
him.
Michelangelo. You will become him once again.
Dude, I can't believe Splinter can just mind control people.
Michelangelo. You will never speak the name of my arch enemy. Instead, you will refer to him as
There's
you know who.
a lot to
And that goes
unpack.
for all of us.
Okay. Shredder's eyes. Shredder's seeing the multiverse.
Just, what is it, the shooting star meme that was really popular?
God, I'm gonna take a screenshot of that and add that on to a personal server so I can just have that as an emote.
Mention of you know whose name will change him back to his former self, and that would be disastrous.
Imagine
long
if
do we have to
Splinter
put
could
up
just
with
mind
canheads
control
like
people
this?
by just tapping their
Until
neck.
we
Oh my god, his
discover
eyes
what
are
plan
glowing.
is.
It's getting too crowded in here. I'm going for a spin.
He put
around the
LEDs
sewers.
in his
Oh,
eyes.
Mondo notion, man. Include me in, okay?
Just where do you think you're going?
Shredder only knows one cool word and it's
Surfing,
Mondo.
man. I hunger for
It's a pretty solid one.
It is, but I guess like that's my only cool word I know.
Your cheapskate, my cheapskate.
This sewer's not big enough for the two.
Whoa, a floppy disk unshredded?
The thing that's different about a
So, yeah, that's that.
Yeah, just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has been popping up a lot here and there recently. Like there was some Gundams kind of like off-brand ones that were kind of based on it, which admittedly I didn't realize they were based on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles until about the second to last one I started having an idea of.
You realized, oh my god,
It's
Donatello did it. He does machines.
It was like this giant one that had a sniper rifle, and I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. And oh, it's got a little mine turtle. Haha, that's funny, like ACF movie. And it's like,
Oh, okay, yeah.
this mech has dreadlocks. That's kind of interesting design, but I'm here for it. Next one is just like, oh, this one's got an extra pair of arms and like some giant claws, and it has a side
Oh, dude,
for
it's
some
Wolverine.
reason. What? I was like, oh, and it's got like a little red banner on its name. That kind of makes me think of.
And he's named after, and he seems to be named after some sort of Renaissance artist.
No, I didn't even see any names or I was just like, at that point, I was like, God, the other one was purple and orange. What if the next one's blue and maybe it has swords and then it did? And I was like, hold up. And I looked at the top left and there was the logo for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on it.
God, that. Yeah. Yeah. Alright. Well, it's been about 3 hours. I've got to go to sleep soon.
I feel
So,
like it's been 3 hours, but it's been a good time.
yeah. So I think we're gonna wrap things up. So we're gonna go on to raid they're a deer. They're a frog, but they're also a deer. They're caribou. Caribou. It's like the Japanese frog sound, but also like the reindeer. Yeah, we're gonna raid them. They're doing Sonic. They're doing some Sonic Adventure 2. It may not be as cool as Sonic Adventure 1, but they're doing Chow Garden, so we're gonna support them on that.
Aw, chows.
I love Sonic Adventure 1 so much. Sonic Adventure 2 is okay, but Sonic Adventure 2 can make evil chows, so like I get it.
Right.
That's the only appeal it has, right?
Were they both on the Dreamcast? I can't remember.
They were.
Okay, one of those I know I definitely played at like some kids.
Yeah, Sonic Adventure 1, the one that's worth it.
And I definitely leaned for getting Shadow for obvious reasons.
Dang. Alright. Well, thank you for everyone who stopped by, whether past, present, or future. I hope you have a nice day or evening and have something nice to look back on. Until then, I wish you a bye-bye. Oh, I probably should have pressed... Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. Oh, frick. Oh, frick. I did the type wrong. Oh. Whoa. TV, right? Or is it VT? VT, that's what I did wrong. Okay, yeah. Alright, now you do your outro.
Just thank you for all coming. It's been pleasant to be here on your channel, hang out with your chats. And until next time, we'll see you around.
Oh boy.
Bye-bye.
Alright, for anyone who's still here on the stream, don't forget to get
Why is there
deodorant.
immediately Dr. Phil?
What?
Immediately when it's rated over, there was Dr. Phil on a body pillow.
Oh. If you're still on stream, don't forget to kiss the bald head of your Dr. Phil body pillow. Bye-bye.